Hello, hello. Happy Sunday, my friends. I hope you are having a glorious, beautiful, sunny, possibly warm Sunday. Let me know what you guys have cooked up today before we go any further, though. If you don't know who I am Tara with The Savage Wild. You can check out a little bit more about me and the things that I create over at thesavagewild.com. Maybe looking for ways to help support the channel over on Patreon or my YouTube members. All of that is down below. And I hope everybody who signed up for the newsletter enjoyed this May newsletter. I put out a newsletter on the 1st of every month. I don't play the spam game because I don't like spam. So why would I do that to other people? So if you are looking for a lovely newsletter filled with DIYs and music and indie artists and all kinds of stuff, tea recipes, then definitely sign up for the newsletter over on my website, or you can check out the link that is in the description box down below. Hey, Siren Sakura is here. It's his first one here, but dinner's starting soon. Ooh, wow, we got something delicious for dinner coming up. Hey, and Peace and Joy is here. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Well, as you can see, we are in the apothecary. I rhyme. I thought of doing something connected to the start of May, very late spring, early summer-esque type of herbs. So I am really feeling that return of the sun's power and warmth. It's still a little cool here in the mountains, still a little windy for our windy season, but it is coming time for that last frost. It's quickly approaching, which means once temps stay stable at like 40 degrees or above at nighttime, that means I can start putting those seedlings out there. And I think, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Plus, I have some potatoes that we didn't get to that actually sprouted. And so I'm going to try planting those as well and see if, I don't know, maybe we'll get some potatoes. If not, well, then it becomes wonderful compost for the soil anyway. So all right, let's go with, for this tea, I'm feeling marigolds or calendula because it's very solar energy, return of the sun. Also, when I think of gardening, I think of roses, and I do have my little mini roses, but they're just chilling in a little pot. But I'm thinking maybe next year I'll plant some big roses. But I always think of roses and just the healing power and beauty and strength and versatility of rose. So we're going to go with rose. And of course, if you're thinking summer, then you're thinking strawberries. At least I am. So I'm going to be going with strawberries. And for a little chillaxation, maybe a little lemon balm. Yeah, I think that'll be some good stuff. Hey, Siren says, let me tell you, the new Love and Deep Space multi-banner is so spicy. The other YouTuber here are getting strikes on their channels for talking about it. Really? Interesting. A little too spicy for YouTube. Well, YouTube's got issues anyway about what you can and cannot talk about. So, okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. I have because I'm using a lot of colorful things for this particular tea, I thought I would use my glass teacup. That way I can see all the herbs like swirling around in there. So we're going to go with my little kitty cat mug and take my little strainer out there. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in our herbs directly. I have my little teaspoon here. I just want to put in a little bit. So let's go ahead and grab my calendula. There we go. And let's get you guys in on this goodness. Hey, Lilith's here. Namaste, fellow wildlings. Namaste, my sister. Siren's like 2 words. Hot springs. Say no more. I was just thinking about hot springs like earlier today. Interesting. Okay, so got my little dealy bob here. I think I'll just put in like a little teaspoon-ish of calendula directly into the mug because I have a little strainer that I put in there to keep the herbs from flying into my mouth when I'm drinking them. So Okay. And calendula has such a, I don't know what it is. It's like a really earthy, I don't know, it just smells like summer to me. So we're going with it. Okay, so it's going back up here. And what did I say? Rose? Yes, rose. We're going with rose. So I have some roses in here. And my other rose plant, it's like, because our weather's been up and down as spring is, it's like warm, cold, windy. What's it going to be? Raining? Who knows? Maybe a little snow, maybe a little hail. You know, it's like the variety pack of all seasons. So the roses are like wanting to go back into its dormancy. So I'm like, well, maybe we'll get some rose hips out of them. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So I'm going to put in a little teaspoon of roses. Like I said, it's when I think of gardening and all that, I think of rose. So, all right. So rose, there we go. Just like that. And then I have my dried strawberries. So we're going to throw that into Siren's like, seriously? That's cool. Yeah, somebody was talking about a hot spring in New Mexico. And then I was thinking about the hot springs that we have. And I was like, well, that'd be awesome. I want to sit in a hot spring. Okay, I'm just putting in 4 is like my favorite number. Of all balance, all things, 4-legged creatures, 4 pillars of the earth, 4 seasons, 4 stages of growth, 4 moon phases. I don't know. It's just a very stable number for me. So we're going with 4 pieces of strawberry. Oh, and then I said for a little chillaxation, lemon balm. So let's put in a little lemon balm. And there we go. Doesn't taste like lemons. I mean, doesn't smell like lemons, but I definitely love the, I don't know, garden scent, I guess it has. So let's go ahead and put in a teaspoon of this as well. There we go. Awesome. Okay. Now I'm going to go grab the kettle so we can put some water in this bad boy and maybe a dash of milk as well. Maybe. We'll see. All right, let me grab the kettle. Okay, I got my hot wawa, but you know, I decided instead of going with milk, I'm going to go with some whey. So I made some farmer's cheese the other day because, you know, as milk becomes a little too thick to drink, because raw milk really doesn't even go bad. Like some people just leave it out on their counter and you can turn it into basically yogurt or clabber. And as long as there isn't any bacteria in it, like it hasn't been tainted, then raw milk just is good. So I decided to make some farmer's cheese out of my friend's milk because she didn't get to drink all of her raw milk and it was a little too thick for her to drink. And I was like, I got you. I'm gonna make some farmer's cheese. So my goodness, I think that my cheese making skills are getting so much better. I was like, I wanted to just eat all of it all by myself in one sitting, but probably shouldn't eat a lot of cheese all at once. So we had a little bit of cheese. Riley thought it was really good. She thought it was really good. She had it with some crackers, but I saved the whey from it. And she's been using some of the whey in the dog food, like, you know, instead of adding a little bit of water to the dry dog food, she's been using some of the whey because it's protein rich. It's got a lot of vitamins and minerals in here because it's all the good stuff, and it doesn't have all of the basically the lactose and stuff that, you know, maybe wouldn't be so good on a dog's digestive system. It's just purely mostly protein. So they seem to really like it. They seem to be it's like they're on ultra juice right now. They're like, but this is really good for baking. Use it as a substitute for the water or milk that you would use in any sort of baking. It's also really good for grains, so if you're making oatmeal or rice or something like that, you would substitute it in. If you're going to make pancakes, waffles, you add it in, and it's kind of almost like a buttermilk. So it adds fluffiness to it, adds flavor, it adds a lot of vitamins, minerals, protein, and also a little bit of tang, if you wanted to add some tang to things. So I am going to add this to my tea. As Sirens say, I'd say the name of the multi-banner, but I'm worried I'll get flagged. Even the stick figure demo videos the company released ended up being taken down. Dude, that is crazy. Wow. Censorship. I am not a fan of censorship. Okay. Let me grab my kettle here. Just add a little bit of this hot water, and then I'm going to add a splash of whey. Plus, the splash of whey will help cool down my tea. Okay. That's more better. Okay. All right. That looks good. Goodly. And here we go. A splash of whey. Hey, Heather's here. Venetian Rose says, hey, fellow travelers and adventurers. Hey, my soul sister. Okay, maybe I'll do this over the sink so I don't make a mess. Here we go. 1, 2, boop. Ooh, pretty. I'm watching the whey go down into the tea. I'm like, ooh, it's a pretty. Okay. I mean, what says early summer like freaking milking the cows? All right, so I'm going to go put this back in the fridge, put my kettle back. All righty. Okay, let me put this back down here. Ooh, that's going to be a delicious. Lilith's like, hey, Heather. Venetian Rose doing a cheers. Siren says the multi-banner is more than worth it, though. Those memory cards are fire. Nice. I like it. You know what? It could work in that company's favor, though, if there's so much sensationalism around their banner and everything. It only could boost or pick people's curiosity, and they'll want to go check it out, only enhancing their popularity instead of driving it away. Or perhaps this was their devilish plan all along. Who knows? Okay, so I'm going to give that a little swirl. And let's head out to the living room because, well, what do we have cooked up for today? It was very close between two things in the poll. So if you don't know, you're new, you're watching the replay, I put out a public poll and a private poll every Thursday. So the public poll goes on my YouTube channel page, and then there's the private poll, the same poll, for my YouTube members and my Patreon members, and they get to vote as well. So if there's something that they're really aching to see and they're like, oh my gosh, we really want that during the live chat, their votes count as well. So there are a couple of people who are not only YouTube members, but they are also patrons. So they have technically the public vote, the Patreon vote, and a YouTube member vote. So that one person gets 3 votes, which is pretty cool, and so it just, drives whatever it is that you guys want to see during the Sunday live chat. So it's just one of the perks of, well, basically me saying thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your support. And so speaking of perks and thank yous, for my YouTube members and my Patreon members, their exclusive video that they voted on just came out, and they voted on wanting to hear my retelling of that just really intricate and just soul shaking vision I had when I met the creator. And I was just like, I wasn't trying. I seriously wasn't trying. It was pretty wild. So I retold that whole story for them, and got a lot of good feedback from it. So I'm glad they enjoyed. But also actually just last night, I put out the Muse in the Mountain offering, which was the intuitively created poem and song based on what their soul's frequency was looking for. So basically, it's like getting a tarot reading, except I'm not the one saying, oh, this is your message. It's left up to the soul to be able to integrate it and figure out, how they would like to utilize it in their own life. So there's that. And then my Keepers of the Medicine, I make a handmade item, and that item is going out in about 2 days. I'm still doing the last finishing touches on those items before I send them out. But again, that's intuitively made. So it's not just like, oh, this month, here's the theme of the month. It's not like that. I'm tapping into that person, what's coming to me, what needs to be created for this person, based on their journey. So that's going out. I do a monthly meditation, so I put that out for them. Of course, they have an upcoming poll for their next exclusive video, what they want to see, and just lots of other things. So if you're ever interested in checking out any of those things, it's over there. The links are down below as well. Siren said maybe, and Heather says going on lurking mode, just going off to work. All right, my friend, lurk away. We'll be here for you. All right, so yes, back to the poll. So what you guys voted on was a little story time about my life growing up haunted. Basically, I always say like, oh, the house I grew up in was haunted, but also every high school I ever taught in was haunted, and every business I ever worked at. And then I started thinking, maybe I'm haunted. Every spirit's just weird, odd. They're not always spirit, just following me around wherever I go. So I am going to be sharing some of those experiences. I can't share all of those experiences because we'd be here for a while, because there's literally 44 years of experiences, like every day of my life. So it's a little too much for one live chat, but oops, little buggy. You can't be in here, sir. So yeah, I have that for story time. I have our herb of the week. So I was kind of feeling into it. I'm like, hello, what herb is coming up for me? And for us this week, and what do you want to share with us? What kind of medicine do you want to share with us? And then afterwards, we have our Q&A. That's where we do the super chats and super stickers. So if there's just a question that you've just been dying to ask, and it could be a wide range of questions. It could be some like a spiritually based question. It could be a question about your health. It could be a question about how do you make a compost pile? Well, I'd love to tell you because I'm in the middle of making one. Or, how do you apply a homemade hair oil and what does it do for your hair? Just all kinds of stuff. So I am open to any and all questions. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's head out to the living room. Lila says, ooh, do I get a handmade item? Quite possibly, my friend, quite possibly. Emanation Rose says, like my mom said to me, you're the one who's haunted. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so Siren's off for dinner time. Enjoy your meal. Have fun. And Venetian said, devilish Snickers. Lilith, well, stay tuned. Okay, all right. Let's grab you guys. Grab my laptop so I can continue to converse with y'all. And I'm going to grab this, the camera. All right, here we go. I'm trying to be oh so gentle with the laptop. Okay. Ooh, I have to take you guys over to the side here. I brought my seedlings downstairs because it's time for them to cool off a little bit. They don't need so much heat anymore because they're not in the trying to burst out of a seed phase. They're just trying to grow. They just need some sun, some good soil. They got their first dose of fertilizer. It worked like steroids. I really saw a difference. I was like, ooh, you guys like that. Okay, so sorry, let me just fix the legs of this tripod. All right, let me go grab my tea. I shall return. All right, tea check. All righty. Okay, let me move some of this stuff off to the side so I can put my tea here. And it's actually kind of warm. I think I don't need my sweater right this very minute. Okay, all righty. Well, hello, welcome. 850X says, did you ever read on Beyonce? I would love to hear your spiritual insight on her energy. I never did do a reading on her, and I have since ceased doing my readings, but have more, I do them in different ways now. So more like intuitively made music and items. So things more based on frequency and promoting, helping others and expanding their own intuition, being able to read for themselves, expanding, their own awareness, own intuition. So it becomes more of a sovereign nature. So I've been trying to help with that as best I can. Let's see. Lilith says, I hear footsteps, but I see no one. Well, that was me. Although sometimes the footsteps have no earthly body. As we segue in. Lilith says, I think the house is haunted. Well, there have been some things in this house, but again, I don't think it's the house. I think it's certain people. Moi, our friend Laura has seen a gentleman, same gentleman I see, in this house, and the gentleman is not Riley. I mean, yes, we see him too, but yeah. So I am so excited for this story time. All right, let's see how my tea is doing. 850X's meditation can be so hard to me. Is there anything you suggest I do to ease into it? I found that there's a variety of ways that one could tap into their own intuition, basically their own soul, listening to spirit, listening to the creator. And for some people, what works best for them is just they get down, they sit down and they just go into this deep meditation and they're just, for some people, it doesn't work it doesn't work like that. For me, for a while, I struggled with meditation because I thought your brain had to be blank, which I found out is, at least not for me, that wasn't the case. I can't have nothing going on, in order to meditate. And for me nowadays, I don't do my seated, like sit down meditations. When I go do my gardening or when I'm off feeding the birds and things like that, that's my time for meditation because I'm at a slower pace. I'm being very intentional. I'm present. I'm focusing on what I'm doing. Like, let's take, for instance, going out and feeding the birds. I have a bunch of wild bird seed for our wild birds around here. And, my intention is, and my focus, that I'm just connecting with our birds right now. I'm connecting with and the other animals that benefit from the seeds as well, like the squirrels and the chipmunks. And, I'm just like kind of calling them all in. And in that very present state, I feel so much more open, open to whatever the creator has to tell me, open to, spirit and things like that. And I just feel more because my mind isn't all over the place. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do after I feed the birds. I'm not thinking about all the to-do lists. It's like, you know what? This is my 10, 15 minutes, however long I choose to be outside with the birds. This is just my time, and it's just me and the birdies, and I'm just giving them some food. So you might want to try something like that. So anything that brings you into the present, it might even be like a sewing project, a crafting project. It could be painting. It could be playing your guitar, anything that will bring you into the present where you're solely focused on this and you're not focused on a million things at once. And in there, I feel like that's where, like, I said guitar. So a lot of artists, I feel like, get a lot of their inspiration is because they sit down, not with, I'm going to write a really awesome song, although, I can't speak for every artist. Maybe that's what they think. But some are like, I'm just feeling the chords of my guitar or whatever instrument it is they play. And they're just there in the present. And that's when these messages come in. Some people might call it meditation. Some people say, oh, I'm just in the zone, or I'm connecting with the muse, or I'm connecting with, creator, or whatever it may be. But they are, in that very relaxed, intentional, present state. So anything really that can get you into that to me is meditation. So I wouldn't say it's a one size fits all because we're all different people. So we all have different ways of connecting. So try that. Instead of thinking I got to sit down and clear my head and just like empty it for any old willy-nilly thing, to come through, just, what is it that I enjoy doing that helps me to slow down and focus on right now instead of in the future or anything in the past. Even if it's an activity that only takes you 5 or 10 minutes, in that 5 or 10 minutes, you are totally present. And it may not be a big booming voice out of the sky that says, hey, 850X, this is what you need to do now. It's more a feeling, an inspiration, an emotion that comes through. All of those are messages. So yeah, I hope that helps. Okay, so let's have a sip of this tea. Let's try this out. It might be a little too hot at the moment, but we'll see. Oh, that's good. That tastes like summer. Not like the heat of summer, but that's perfect. Right at the beginning, I really feel the lemon balm. Like I'm really tasting it, which has a very soothing quality to it. And then right behind it, I taste the rose and then the calendula last. And there's a very, very, very subtle hint of the whey in there, but mostly it's the herbs that are coming through, which is what I wanted. I didn't want it to be like, oh, I'm just drinking a mug full of whey, Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I wasn't looking for whey tea. Lila says, how did you like my hallway? Oh, dude, lovely. You were telling me the story. Was it about going up the hallway and you were making like was it a bookcase or like a stand or something like that? I mean, it sounds beautiful. I didn't see any photos. If there was photos attached, I did not see them, but yeah. I mean, that's freaking, what did you say? That was like 111 kilograms you were pulling up the stairs? Like, what the heck? Freaking Shira over there. um, okay. So just making sure I have everything in order. Plus the tea is a little hot, so I'm just trying to like, because I want to be able to drink it while I'm speaking, but so I'm just waiting for a little cool down. Oh, something I forgot to do is to say thank you to my individual patrons and YouTube members, and also, like I do every Sunday, is to also say thank you to my subscribers, because I know that there are there's thousands, if not millions, of YouTube channels. I don't really know how many YouTube channels out there, but there's probably a lot. And so subscribing to my channel means a lot. So thank you, thank you. And also thank you for joining me on Sundays. I'm just goofy girl here in Arizona, and the fact that you want to hang out with me on a Sunday for a couple of hours means a lot. So thank you. And thank you to my moderators who pop in and out, and also the perma moderator, Riley, who's in the other room. Of course, I love him too. Okay, so my YouTube members, you'll know who they are because they have a little colored wolf head next to their name. And that would be Costalini and Cinnamon Girl and Jonathan Cleese and Nancy from A Crone's Intuition. Thank you, thank you. Mwah! And for my patrons, Linda and Joel and Aaron, Casey Gritter, Palu, Brandy, Brian, Lily, Crystal, Easy Does It, Dana, and Ashley. Thank you so much. And there are a couple of people on of my Patreon members that have been with me since I first started Patreon, which I believe is just maybe a couple of years after I started my YouTube channel back in 2016. So maybe around 2018, I think, is when I started Patreon. They've been with me since then. That's freaking wow. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Oh, that's what I was like. Okay, I keep putting things behind me to remind me to talk about them before we get into our little story time there. Lila says she included a picture. I didn't see it. I mean, maybe the attachment didn't come through. Resend it though. Resend it. Because I was like, you were telling me this cool story. I was like, yeah, and I wish I could see what that looks like, but I could only picture it in my mind. So yes, a physical picture would be lovely. Thank you. Heather said, oh, 333. All eyes on me. I wanted to show you my hair oil. So I did a video on do-it-yourself hair oil. It was a rosemary nettle hair oil, and I had let it sit for a couple of months. I mean, you don't have to let it infuse for that long, but I do. And sometimes I forget about infusions. And so they end up infusing for like a year, which only, makes them more potente. So it's up to you how long you want them to infuse. But anyway, I bottled this on the 27th. So recently. But anyway, this is all infused with rosemary and nettle, which are really good for encouraging hair growth, strengthening the hair follicles you already have, and basically nourishing the scalp because, our scalp is just like the rest of our skin. Anything that you put on your skin soaks inside. And there was something that I read where they were saying it was women, especially since for the most part, women like to put on like lots of lotion and perfumes and makeup and things like that. And they said that the average woman, her body, like through her skin, through her pores, and just something like 10 pounds of stuff each year, like 10 pounds a year of like just soaking stuff in through the skin. So it's like, just a reminder to be very mindful. If stuff's going to get soaked in and I'm soaking in like 10 pounds of stuff, then I want it to be good stuff. I probably don't want to soak myself with chemicals. So it's the same for our scalp. If we're, using shampoos that have a lot of like artificial fragrances and, a lot of just chemical stuff, which some stuff very deviously, they put in stuff that dries out the scalp on purpose so that then now you have to use their conditioner. Now you have to use this. And even though it's like touted as natural or organic, it's, good for you things, definitely take a look at that ingredients list. And if you're looking at it and you need to be a Latin linguist to be able to decipher what's in there, then it's probably not the best for the scalp. And all of this has been a journey for me. So I'm not like the expert on hair, but I've learned a lot along the way. But anyway, so with this, you can use it once or twice a week. And basically, I keep my little dropper on there, but I just part my hair in sections and I put the dropper like directly onto my scalp. And then I use my fingertips, not my nails, but I just give myself like a 10 to 15-minute head massage, just like really getting in there, trying to bring blood circulation to the surface, because oftentimes what causes hair loss is the lack of blood supply, so it's full of chemicals, let's say, and there's no blood supply to, for that cell turnover, then eventually the follicle is just going to die and the hair is going to fall out. So I'm trying to encourage and stimulate whatever I got up there to keep on growing. And, and if certain follicles have died along the way, hopefully I can revive them. And then I learned something. There's a new channel, and gosh, I forgot her name, that I started following on YouTube. She's from India, and her mom makes these wonderful things for hair. Like their whole focus is on hair. And man, Indian hair, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. But she was talking about pressure points that you could do like after your scalp massage. And she said, basically take your 4 fingers from like where your forehead is and place 4 fingers. And then when you press right there, you just like press it down really hard in circular motions, not so hard that you hurt yourself, but that's a pressure point. And it helps to encourage hair growth. And then you take 4 fingers again from that spot, and then you put your finger there, and then you do a little circular rotation, just for a couple of minutes. And then you do 4 more fingers, and that's another pressure point. And then there's 1 more pressure point below that at the back of the scalp. So there's 4 scalp pressure points. And so I've been doing that, and I've noticed with my hair oil and more being just conscious of what I'm putting onto my scalp, I've just noticed that there's like little baby hairs starting to come back. So I think my hair is getting like super thick again. It's like, yay! Let's see, Siren says, and I'm thinking this is your live chat, not a video I uploaded. I should be safe talking about the multi-banner here. Yeah, I mean, go ahead. I mean, I don't know. The worst thing YouTube does is sometimes which some people have been like, hey, why do you keep deleting my comment during the live chat? And I'm like, dude, I'm right here. I'm not deleting your comments. Yes, sometimes YouTube does that. So actually that reminds me, thank you, Siren, for reminding me. If in my videos, like either during a live chat and you're just chatting, or it's during a video that I've made and then people leave comments and your comment doesn't show up, it's not because I've deleted it. I don't delete comments. Like I literally don't. Even comments that seem kind of trollish, I don't, because, I mean, it all kind of helps the algorithm or whatever. So I just leave the comments there. I might say, hey, maybe if you don't like this channel, go find a different channel. But yeah, so if you find those things are deleted, then that's probably YouTube. And YouTube has deleted my comments from my own channel before, where I've tried to respond to people being like, hey, yeah, hey, thanks for watching, or, that was really sweet of you, whatever it may be. I hope you have a great week. And then YouTube decides that, I'm sorry, that violated our policy. So they just like delete my comment. I'm like, I'm the creator of this channel. Like, what are you talking about? Siren says the multi-banner is called Lingering Lust. So you can imagine what the memory cards are like. Ooh, oh my, well, that does sound saucy. Okay, well, so just, I wanted to show you guys because I was smitten with my hair oil. And I'm going to try a different recipe next time too, once that hair oil runs out, which I don't know, it'll probably take me a year to go through, but I'm going to try some different things. I'm also going to try, and I'll let you know how it goes. So I'm not saying this works, but I'm going to try it. First, making my own shampoo, and I'll make a video on it and, see how it goes. But then also there's this little recipe that women in India, different parts of Africa, and different parts throughout Asia. It's with minor tweaks here and there. It's basically the same kind of formula, and it's apparently what's been used for like over 1,000 years or more, to help reverse graying. And, and so a lot of stuff's been coming out lately that, what, this idea that, well, everybody gets old at this age, and, and then your eyesight goes, your teeth get bad, your skin starts to sag, you go gray. It's like, really? Because if we used to live to be a couple hundred years older or more, then why would we go so old, like so soon? And there are pictures pre-AI. There are pictures out there of women that were in their 70s, 80s, women in Japan, women in different parts of India, women in Africa who still had their very dark hair, not a gray hair in sight. And this was before hair coloring. And yes, hair coloring was a thing, but these women were not coloring their hair. It was natural. And so it was all dependent on some of the things they were taking in. So I'm going to try this recipe once I get my black sesame seeds in, which I believe are coming in the mail Friday of this upcoming week. So then I'm going to try it out. I'll let you know how it goes. We'll see if my skunk streak starts to reverse, although I've kind of become accustomed to it. So I don't know, but if it does, then, and it's all nourishing stuff. So, I mean, it's all good things. I will make a video on it. If I actually see results, then I'll make a video on it. I'm going to have Riley take it too, and we'll see. We'll compare and contrast. Like, does it work better in a man's hair or a female's hair? Does it even matter? Like, so yeah, if I see some results, then I'll make a video, because I don't want to make a video and be like, hey, this works, and I don't know anything about it. So we'll see. I'll try it out. I'll be your guinea pig. Siren said, so far I've gotten Caleb, Sains, and Raphael's. I'm still missing Xavier and Silas. Ooh. Lilith is like, skunk streak. Yeah, it's right there. It's my grandmother's streak. She had a streak right there in the same spot. That's like where I started graying, was just right there. My mother actually has it there. My grandmother had it there. And then the rest of their hair, turned gray, but it started right there with like a white streak. So my godsons, they like it though. They said that I look like, what's her name? Like Storm, not Storm, one of the X-Men. But anyway, so every time I walk in the door, they're like, it's X-Men Auntie. Like, that's me. Okay, let's have a little bit of tea. And then I promised you guys the seedlings, and then we get to our spooky story time. True stories, by the way. So these are not made up spooky stories. Okay, let's take a look at the seedlings so you can check their progress. And I even have one of Riley's stories as well. So I'll share that with you guys. But take a look, you guys. These are my strawberries. And then we got a little lavender sprouted here. Check these guys out. These are my beefsteak and Roma tomatoes. I'm going to be adding more soil soon, because they've gotten to the point where they're big enough. They've gotten their first fertilization. And when you add in more soil, root starts growing wherever the soil touches. So you end up growing a stronger, more healthier tomato plant. Okay, and then over here, well, this is Becky's plants. I'm not really sure what those are, but back here are my plants. So I have catnip and peppermint here. I have sage and rosemary here. And then back here, I have romaine lettuce and spinach. And then my onions did not sprout, so I'm going to direct sow those when I transplant everybody else. But I'm real happy with them. I just wanted to show off my little babies for you guys. Okay. We're back, Jack. Okay, Lilith says, I like your skunk streak too. Yeah, so I'm like, I'm like torn. I want to try. I want to try this concoction and see if it really does reverse gray hair, white hair, whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I guess if I decided to stop this concoction and I wanted to bring my white streak back, it would just kind of come back on its own because technically it is hereditary. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm like, I'm ready to be gray now. Okay. Gather around, my childrens. Gather around. It is story time. Rogue. Yes, that's what they say. They say, Auntie looks like Rogue. um, okay. Maybe I should close this shade here. Give it some ambiance, maybe. Okay. There we go. Oh, actually made the picture nicer. Okay. Heather says, what sage? Sorry, I missed what you were saying. How I mentioned it to you. Oh yeah. So I have some sage that's over there. They're growing. They're like this tall now. I'm like, oh, so they're about 1.5 inches tall. And there's about 4 sages that are growing, and Heather was saying that her sage plant was all abloom and it was beautiful, the pictures that she sent me. So, and the plants are acting a little differently this year just because the seasons seem to be a little off. Like, I don't know, they mess with the weather too much. But normally we get, excuse me, at this elevation and in Heather's elevation, which is pretty similar to ours, she gets a lot of snow too, but she didn't really get any snow this year. We didn't get really any snow this year. So certain plants that normally die off didn't. And they're just kind of hanging on, and everybody's like wondering, what do we do now, coach? And then certain other plants, need certain temperatures. It's kind of all out of whack. So gardening is going to be very interesting this year, just kind of feeling it out because it's not like predictable season weather. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes with the direct sowing and all of that. Let's see. I speak my truth is not me panicking at my grays and plucking them as I grow. Man, don't pluck your grays. Let them go. Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried at first, like back when it was just like a little, like I noticed a white spot there and I was like, oh, and so it begins. But I remember my mom, she'd be like in the mirror and she's like in there with her tweezers and she's like, ha, I got you. And I was like, Mama, I was like, don't pluck your hair. I said, what happens if you pluck your whole head? And she was like, that's what wigs are for, honey. I was like, what? Stop plucking your hair. Let me see. Lilith says, Auntie is rogue. Mm-hmm. Heather says, just was getting in the dryer. Yeah, it takes till it's a year old to bloom the first time. Well, I think your sage looks beautiful. Beautiness. Okay. Are you ready for a spooky time? Well, it's not intentionally trying to be spooky. As we know, spirit is just us without a body. So it's not, creatures from the Black Lagoon or anything. Not to say that there aren't some very interesting energies out there, but it's all different dimensions, and it's probably all kinds of normal in their dimension. We probably look like the weirdos and whatever's, but there's a lot of stuff out there. And I think the more the more basically, the less fear we put into things. It's what we don't know that we tend to make up things in our mind and, allow the movies to dictate what our attitude should be towards certain things, hence why they call it programming and channeling. Channel 2, channel 3, planting certain things into our mind, like this is how you act. They teach us in TV shows and commercials and movies. So as I share these stories, just keep in mind that they were from various points in my life. So sometimes when I'm telling a story from the point of view of, let's say, when I was a child, through a child's eyes, I was terrified. Nowadays, if that same thing were to happen, which it does, I'm not terrified anymore because I know what They are. They're just us without a body. It's like, except it just happens to be somebody who didn't knock on my door and come in the house. They kind of just already were in the house. And so you just kind of learn to live with them, just like we learn to live with our neighbors. We learn to live with other people in the world. Spirits are just a part of that world as well. And just like with neighbors, some neighbors can be ornery. Some neighbors are quite pleasant. People come in all types of attitude. And so spirit is exactly the same, lots of different attitudes and temperaments. And so, but again, it's nothing to fear, because as being surrounded by so much spirit as we all are, it's just some of us are a little more in tune with being able to sense them than others. They can't hurt you. They really can't. Sure, sometimes like you might feel them like touch you or brush against you, but they cannot end you. Okay, that's a violation of free will. A spirit, something in a fourth dimension cannot end something in a third dimension. Like it's not possible. So no worries. Okay, so the first story I would like to share is actually Riley's story. And I encourage you guys to send me your stories. So any stories of the unexplained, or, an interesting story that you think would be really good for me to tell either during a live chat or even make a whole video of story time. I would be more than happy to share your story. But here we go. And Riley so kindly printed it out for me, but I have heard this story from him before. Okay. Heather says, if I'm speaking nonsense, it's been a long day, to be fair. I'm trying. No worries, no worries. And oftentimes when I'm trying to type or do dictation and the autocorrect pops in and it has me speaking nonsense too. So I get it. Siren says, Annabelle is real. She's on display at a museum in Connecticut. I've heard about that story. Yes. Lilith says, Annabelle is a possessed object running rampant on the crazy tour they took her on. Annabelle did take care of her caretaker, though. Yeah, interestingly enough, I was hearing things about haunted dolls and things like that. Okay, so here we go, you guys. This is Riley's story from his words and his point of view. He says, it's in the early 60s. I was 5, turning 6 years old, living on base at Altus Air Force Base, Oklahoma. My dad was a pilot in the Air Force and went to Vietnam. He did 2 tours there, but got a break in between, so I did get to see him for a short time. I remember my parents arguing and later having to go to court to tell the judge why I wanted to live with my dad. My dad returned from his second tour, met a woman, and they married. Eventually, I was allowed to go live with my dad and his new wife, so they came and picked me up in Oklahoma. The 3 of us then road tripped to my stepmom's parents' ranch in Arizona. I had never been there before and had never met any of these people, including my new stepmom. During the trip, my stepmom told me about the exciting things to do on the ranch, about her mom and dad, and her 2 sisters, Judy and Susie, and about the crazy cat, Pooh. Think of like Winnie the Pooh. Pooh liked to jump on your lap and lay there, but she did not like you to touch her. If you did, she would immediately attack you. I know a lot of kitties that they are just content being on your lap and they just do not want you to touch them. By the time we finally arrived, I felt pretty comfortable and was eager to meet everyone. My new grandparents were the most awesome people in the world. They made me feel so loved and accepted and just part of the family. It was incredible. There was a large sprawling ranch house with several rooms. I stayed in one of the middle rooms on a small bed along the wall with a very large window looking out to the front yard. Let's kind of picture that. Actually, it sounds really beautiful. I like a nice big window in a bedroom. During the night, while I was asleep, I was awoken when someone sat on the foot of the bed. So can you think of that like when, like either a parent or somebody who's come in to kind of check on you and they sit down, you feel that kind of press down on the mattress. I could feel the sheets pressing down on my feet, and this woke me up. I saw who I assumed was Judy petting Pooh, who was sitting on the windowsill. To this day, I don't know why this bothered me, but it did. I slowly tried to pull the covers up over my eyes and fall back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and Grandma was in the kitchen. I asked her where Judy was, and she explained that she lived in town, but she would be coming later that day. So he was a little puzzled. So then he asked where Susie was, and she said Susie had spent the night at a friend's house and she would be back later that day. So now you can see like the wheels are spinning. So it's like, who was that girl petting the kitty that night? It says, I then asked, well, who was sitting on the bed last night? She asked, what did she look like? He said she had long dark hair and she had a white nightgown on and she was petting Pooh. Grandma said, oh, that was Maria. I asked, who is Maria? Grandma said, Maria is our ghost. And he says, and so basically the next, what was it, couple of decades or whatever, he's like hanging out with Maria. And he said it was, she wasn't like a scary ghost or anything, it was just, I think he said that it was a young woman from that area who may have died in childbirth, or I don't know, but she was just a young woman. And he said that sometimes she wanted attention, so she'd do little things to just try to get people's attention because, connecting with like the 3D and 4D, it must get kind of lonely sometimes, as I've heard from other spirits, that sometimes other spirits don't acknowledge other spirits. Like they can't see each other. It's weird. It must be like a vibrational thing. And so I would imagine it could get lonely, and so you want to get people's attention, like, hi, hello, still here. So he said that sometimes the different fans would turn themselves on and he would literally see the dial moving by itself, turning itself on and off. He says it was, I guess, a couple of times, maybe more, of pictures, sitting on top of the television, a big picture that was like sitting in the back. He says it like quickly moved to the front and flew across the living room when they were watching TV. Like literally somebody with some force, like knock that picture off. And again, just wanting some attention, like, hello, folks. Don't forget that I'm here. Don't forget that I'm part of the family too. And he said that they had some like a foster kid that was there for a little bit, a high school kid, I guess. And he says that he wasn't a bad kid. He was just, just your average teenage boy, but he was kind of girl crazy and may have acted like a jerk sometimes. But what teenager doesn't act like a jerk every once in a while? We're kind of selfish when we're teenagers. But apparently Maria didn't like him so much. And so Riley was telling me that while this kid was like on the phone or whatever, there were books, I guess, like on a shelf overhead where she went and just like basically knocked all the books off on top of his head, just to show her displeasure. But yeah, otherwise not a malicious ghost, just like people. I mean, they are people, literally. They are people, just no body. But yeah, saying, hey, we like certain people, we don't like certain people, and what other way can a spirit express itself than doing something physical? Because oftentimes people can't hear the spirit talking, saying, hey, I don't like your attitude, or I don't like what you're doing. Please stop that. If you can't hear them, that would be frustrating. So they're like, okay, can you hear this? Books falling off the shelf, Let's see. Heather's like, no, childhood fear, dolls creep me out. Oh man, I used to have so many dolls. I speak my truth is running away. No. So yeah, Riley says he really came to be fond of Maria. He really liked Maria. So, and who knows? I don't know if like that's just a place where she stays, or if she visits those family members from time to time. And uh, some of those family members have passed on now, but maybe she's the one that comes through here from time to time. I don't know, or maybe she just kind of stayed in that area. And I don't believe the ranch is there anymore. I think it's just all city, and it's not beautiful farmland anymore. So yeah, so Riley has, of course, probably other stories and stuff. But so something like that, if you guys wanted to maybe print out a story, or not print out, but maybe type up a story, a personal story that you have and you want me to read it, and retell it, I would be more than happy. But okay, I have a few stories for you guys. And Heather reminded me, okay, this one doesn't have actual like spirit connection to it. It was just my dad trying to play a practical joke on me, because my dad's favorite thing in the world was to scare the crap out of both my brother and I. And we were already on edge because we considered, as my brother and I considered our house pretty haunted. Like we were, and it's just like to have two parents who just don't believe anything that you're saying, that you're just wanting attention and you're just making things up. Yet they'll, like, at least my mom will talk about, oh, I saw an angel today or this or that. It's like, okay, well, you get to see angels, then what are we seeing? So it's like, if it's true for you, it could also be true for us too. But they were like, it's like they're the only ones that can see spirit, and they don't believe anybody else's story. It's like the weirdest thing. It's like my dad who says, I see spirits, I don't believe in them though. And I'm just like, what? Hello, Mr. Contradiction. But yeah, so my dad used to love to freak out me and my brother. And I was going to bring this back around to dolls, because I had so many dolls, and I had this like chest. It was like a thing like back in the late 80s where everybody, I don't know what prompted this, but everybody had these like box looking chests with like a treasure chest lock on it, and you just kept junk in it. And they came in like different prints, like from floral to teddy bears. And I don't know. I don't even see those in stores anymore. But back in like the 80s and early 90s, it was a thing. So anyway, I had this chest, like a square chest in my room. And I had a bunch of Barbie dolls on their stands there. And plus, I had a few porcelain dolls. I had tons of stuffed animals. And I used to sleep with all of my stuffed animals like surrounding my head, because I thought that they protected me, because I was so terrified every time I go to sleep. So I would like tell my stuffies to like, please protect me, and I thought that the more that they were closer to my face, the more that they protected me. Well, anyway, my dad went in one night while I was sleeping, and he got all of my dolls whose arms could move, and he lined them all up so that their arms were outstretched like this facing my bed, so that when I woke up in the morning it looked like my dolls were after me. And so I was like, ah. So I ran in, and I was trying to tell my mom, and my dad's like, he's like, did you get scared? Ah. He's like, you big old scaredy cat. I'm like, and he says, I did that. You thought it was a ghost. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? Just stop it. I'm already scared. But yeah, so that's my dad. Or like we'd be watching television, and he'd come up behind us, and I used to have My Little Pony. He'd take the tail from like My Little Pony, and he'd just like lightly touch the tail like to your head, and you'd be like, and he's like, ah, you thought. He's a, you big old scaredy. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Certainly didn't help things. That didn't help my fear of spirits at the time. Now, I mean, I don't. I mean, I suppose I could get a little scared if somebody were trying to play a joke on me, but I don't get so scared anymore. Heather says, one thing I'm grateful my mom understood, because she saw things too. And it says, lockbox. Yes. OMG. Yes. See, somebody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting, because my mom would claim to hear spirit, see spirit, but she would just say that any spirit she heard was an angel. Just to her, everything is angel. And then I would tell her things I saw. And so she would either say, oh, it's just an angel, or, oh, it's just your imagination. Like it was like 50-50, whether she decided it was just my imagination, or, oh, it's an angel. Some of the things in the house, I don't think those were angels. And my father, who claimed to have seen things when he was younger, And he was very adamant about it. And like he would tell my nana, his mother, about it over and over. And, his story wouldn't change, So I believe that my father did see those things. But like when we would share our stories, he'd just look at us and he'd be like, "You're spooky." Why you gotta be so spooky? Like, I'm not spooky. He's like, "Yes, you are." He was, "I think you embellish." I'm like, "No." I was like, "What? How come you can see spirits and I can't?" And he's like, "Well, because I know what I saw. I can't see what you see." I'm like, okay. um, let's see. Lewis says mediumship boot camp much. Oh, dude. I mean, I'm grateful that actually I grew up the way I did because it was like just toss. Yes, it was like a boot camp. Just toss your butt right into the spiritual fire or whatever. And it's either you learn to understand it and not become fearful of it, or you just, like my brother, pretend you don't see anything and just, just nope, didn't see it. No, no, no. My phone is not playing music all by itself. Nope, didn't hear it. That's my brother. um, I Speak My Truth says, growing up, I grew up in a haunted house because my siblings and my mom were the only people who heard things, saw ghosts except for me, but maybe because I was a child and I was being protected. Could have been some of the things that they were seeing were not meant for you, or, yeah, sometimes there's, because, just like I said, just like there's nice people out there, there's not so nice people out there. It goes the same for spirits. Some are okay, nice spirits. Some are not so nice. It's just different temperaments. So maybe kind of protecting you from the not so nice temperaments, perhaps. Siren says, sometimes I hear messages from different goddesses that hasn't happened in a while. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I have many stories, and I'm trying to like go through the Rolodex in my head of like experiences, but I think um, okay. Because a lot of them were in that house I grew up with. So that's probably where the majority of my stories come from. Although, I mean, I have stories from here, like in this house, and also the property, that I have. And, so I have things that are more recent, but also, I don't know. I think they're the ones from childhood are so much more happening instead of just like, oh, like a little something here and there. It was like onslaught in your face 24/7, just wouldn't go away. Just so much stuff. Okay, so here we go. This story takes place in my house in Chula Vista, which is in San Diego. Growing up, I was at the time, I don't know if I could say I was like, maybe I was 17, maybe 16 or 17 years old. So, I was probably junior or senior in high school. And the reason I say that is probably around that time because like as I got older, the time at which I had to go to bed was later and later. Because like when I was younger, it was like everybody had to be in bed at 8. My brother and I both in bed by 8, no questions. But as I got a little bit older, it was like my time got extended to 9 p.m. I could go to bed at 9 p.m. And by this time, I could go to bed at 10 p.m. And that was around the time I was 16 or 17. So that's kind of where I'm gauging it from. But anyway, so my mother and I were sitting on the couch watching television, and my father goes to bed quite early. Like he goes to bed before anybody because he, at the time when he was still working, he was a truck driver and he had to get up really early. So he got up at 3 in the morning and sometimes 3:30. So he had to go to bed early. And my brother was still very young because he's 6 years younger than me. And so he was already in bed. And so my mom, uh, she had her TV shows she liked to watch. Sometimes she liked to watch the telenovelas, and sometimes she liked to watch The Highlander, or she'd watch, gosh, what? There was a show with Michael Landon, and he was supposed to be like an angel or something, and he went around and like helped people. Um, I forget the name of that show, but anyway, so she had her shows, and she especially loved The Highlander though because she had a crush on Duncan MacLeod. So we're watching it, and I wanted to, it was getting close to. Highway to Heaven. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was like, is it Stairway to Heaven? No, that's a song. I was like, something heaven. Yeah, Highway to Heaven. So yeah, we used to watch that show. Um, and and she was getting pretty tired, but I thought she would stay up with me because normally if she stays up, maybe I could stay up with her past my bedtime. And I really wanted to see Tales from the Crypt. And although Tales from the Crypt wasn't creepy, it was actually kind of funny. The intro, any of you guys that ever watched that show, it's like, deeny, 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 this music that they play. And then the crypt keeper, like, pops out of his whatever coffin or whatever it is, in the intro, and used to always scare me. But that was the only part of the show that ever scared me. It was really campy. It was like campy, spooky, like not scary at all. But I enjoyed watching it. So I wanted to stay up for that. And so my mom was like, sweetie, I'm going to go to bed. She says, if you stay up, just before you go to bed, make sure you turn off all the lights and you turn off the television before you go to bed. And I was like, okay, cool. And Unsolved Mysteries had just come on, and that was another show that I liked. Although the intro music used to creep me out, I will say, like Unsolved Mysteries, and there was another show too that was a little creepy, but Unsolved Mysteries to me was, oh, well, we'd watch America's Most Wanted too, but that wasn't really creepy. That was just that was like real people that pose a threat that might be in your neighborhood. But anyway, so yeah, it was Unsolved Mysteries, and so I'm there. I'm like watching it. I'm like, and my mom like, okay, bye, mom. Good night. And so here's the layout. There's like, pretend I'm sitting in the couch right now. There's like behind me. There's it's a addition to the house we were renting from my grandfather. So my grandfather built this like addition behind us. And so there was a sliding glass window because technically that was supposed to be where the backyard started, but he never put in a real wall with a real door. Instead, he left the slider back there, as if you're walking into the backyard, but really you're like walking into this addition. So anyway, so there's like this room behind me with like a sliding glass door, and the television is kind of where the camera is right now, and off to my left was the kitchen and the stairs and the doorway into the garage. And then it's just windows, facing our yard off to my right. And so I'm sitting there watching TV, and the kitchen light is on and the living room light is on, and our living room light is the ceiling fan light, but the ceiling fan isn't on. And so I'm sitting there like, ooh, like watching Unsolved Mysteries, and I'm just like, because it can be kind of creepy, some of the stuff that's on Unsolved Mysteries. And then all of a sudden I hear that creak upstairs, that very familiar creak. It was very familiar to me. Anytime anybody walked upstairs, the floors creaked because the wood was rotting or whatever. I don't know. But there was a broken step at the very top. So when you stood on the top step, you heard a very loud crunch, or a kind of creak crunch. I don't know. You just weren't supposed to step directly on that top step because it crunches. And so I hear the like creak, 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 kind of like walking down the hallway of the upstairs. And I was kind of like, and then I was like, nah. My mama keeps telling me that that's just the house settling. This house was built in 1978. How long does this house need to settle? This is like the 90s by this time, so I'm like, so I tried to ignore it, and I really want to watch my TV show. And then I hear creak, creak, and then I hear the like the crunch of the top step. And I was like, no, I do not want ghosts right now. I'm trying to stay up and watch this TV show. I don't want to go to bed right now. I was like, I don't want to stay up. I don't want to have ghosts. Can't they just let me watch this TV show in peace? And so then the light in the living room starts to like dim out and like get brighter and dim out. Like it starts like somebody's messing with the knob on the ceiling fan, because it has a dimmer switch. You can turn it like brighter or less, or more dim or whatever. So it's going back and forth. And I'm like looking at the switch. I'm looking at the light. I can hear now a very heavy footsteps, very slowly coming down the stairs. And there's a wall there, so you can't really see who's coming down the stairs until they're at the very bottom of the stairs. Then you can see because they've walked into the kitchen. So you hear like a thump, thump. It's like heavy steps. Like they're not even trying to be quiet. And I'm just like, um, uh, and I'm like, how badly do I want to watch this TV show? And the ceiling fan starts to slowly turn, and I decided, you know what? I don't want to watch this TV show that bad. I think I want to go to bed now. So that whatever that was coming down the stairs was probably about halfway down the stairs. I have to go over to near where the stairs are to turn off the kitchen light. So you would imagine that by the way, I ran track when I was in high school. So I ran as fast as I could to the kitchen with my hand covering my eyes so I wouldn't see anything. And I was like, light is off. When I turned off the living room light, clicked off the television, threw the remote, ran down the hall, the darkened hall to my bedroom. And, I went to sleep. But I don't recall. Maybe I don't know if I blocked it out or actually just nothing really happened, but I don't recall it continuing down the stairs, because even in my room, I didn't hear anything continuing down the stairs. I didn't, nothing wasn't turning anything on in the living room. So I think it stopped. So I was like, but it was things like that happen on an almost daily basis for both my brother and I. So I was, number one, I wanted to go to college because I wanted to be the first in my family to go to college, and I wanted, a good job. And, but, and I also wanted to get out of my city. I figured, like so many people from Chula Vista just stay in Chula Vista. Like their whole life is there. They never experience the world or anybody else or any other culture. So I wanted to get out of San Diego. I wanted to get out of Chula Vista, but mostly I wanted to get away from my haunted house. I didn't care like if I was in a crappy dorm at some crappy college. I just wanted to have a good night, peaceful sleep that didn't have ghosts in it. But whoa, there's more. I moved to a college that was haunted. So yes, that's story number one. Let's see. Punky is here. Hey, Punky. Punky said, my grandma was not so nice. As she turns on an unplugged stereo at my dad's house, caused electrical problems in his brand new vehicle. Oh my goodness. I've heard of not so nice family members that do things like that. My dad, who doesn't believe in ghosts, that will also tell me about the ghosts that he sees. This makes no sense. He told me about stuff like that too, where there was people that in life they were not so pleasant. So that didn't really change after death either. So they just stayed not so pleasant. Siren says, I loved Unsolved Mysteries and Forensic Files, all the true crime shows. Yeah, I don't know. I had a thing for true, like true crime. I liked like police shows and catching criminals and, learning about different mysteries, whether it's like an unsolved missing persons case or just like a case of this is unexplained, Let's see. Heather says, I liked Twilight Zone, Unsolved Mysteries, Alfred Hitchcock. Yes. I watched Alfred Hitchcock. I watched Twilight Zone. I also watched Tales from the Dark Side. That has a scary intro. And my mom would not let me watch that show because my mom was always afraid that my brother and I would have nightmares if we watched scary movies or scary TV shows. So she wouldn't allow that in the house. But when I would go to my grandparents' house, my grandma, who loves scary movies, scary stories, she'd let me watch whatever scary stuff I wanted to. And I will say that show was freaky to a 6 or 7-year-old. Probably not now, but I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I remember the intro being quite creepy. And Tales from the Crypt was not creepy though, but I enjoyed watching it. And it had, like I said, campy, scary stories. Let's see. Heather says Beyond Belief came out in the 90s, and if I remember, Beyond Belief. Oh my gosh. I haven't heard the title of that show in a really long time, but yeah, I don't remember like watching it religiously, but I do remember at least seeing a few episodes. Oh my goodness. Yes. Riley says the scariest TV show he ever saw was Pee Wee Herman. I Speak My Truth was laughing over there. They're like, hello. Um, Heather says, I totally understand that feeling. I Speak My Truth says, you're right. Maybe those things in my home wasn't meant for me to see, but everyone else, even other family members or visitors, would hear things or see things except for me. My sister said she literally saw the chair in the living room pull out and move towards her, and she was bawling tears. Oh my goodness, she was home alone. Yeah, no, I would have run out the front door. And I did once. I did. I decided I was home alone and I was like, yeah, yeah, forget this mess. Peace out. I'll get grounded later. Don't care. But then again, if I get grounded, I have to sit with the ghost in my room. So anyway. Siren says, I have an unsolved mystery in my family. Ooh. You know, we have one of those in our family too. Well, actually a couple. Family mysteries. Lilith says, not gonna lie, might fall asleep listening to you. She's like, ghost stories. They just help me fall asleep. Okay. Let's see. What would be another interesting one to share? How about the one where I did actually run out of my house? Okay. Yeah, let's do that one. That one I know I was in 6th grade because I went to my friend Marshall's house and she had transferred to my elementary school in 6th grade. And then she went back to, I think she was from Georgia. I think she moved back to Georgia after 6th grade. So this had to be 6th grade. But anyway, so at the time, I don't know where my brother was because this is after school. So I don't know if he was at a friend's house or he was with my mom. But I remember my mom was off doing something. I don't know. It could have been around the time where she was trying to get her associates at the community college. She kept like trying intermittently, like throughout the years, trying to go back and get that associate's degree. So it might have been around that time. I'm not sure. But anyway, so I'm home alone. My mom is always like, don't throw any parties. Like, yeah, me and my 3 friends, like, we're going to throw a party. But, you know, she just told me to, I don't know, it was like clean the bathroom and, you know, just don't have any parties. Don't spoil your dinner. So don't eat anything before dinner. I'm like, yeah. So she leaves and I'm watching TV and I'm just sitting in the chair. And I hear my mom call me from the bedroom. And so where I am in the chair, not the couch, but the chair in the living room, it looked like to my left, you look directly down the hallway down into my parents' bedroom. And so I hear my mom go, Tara. And I was like, what? And I was like, God. So like I put down the TV remote and I go back into my parents' room. I'm like, Mama, what? And I'm looking around. I'm like, Mama? And I'm like going in the bathroom because they had like an adjoining bathroom to their master bedroom. I'm like, Mama? And I'm like going into my brother's room, Brian? Mama? And so then I walk back out because I walked right past the front door. So I go over back to the front door and the car's gone. So I'm like, oh, my mom did leave. And I was like, oh, because I quite clearly heard my mom not just whisper my name. I heard my mom yell my name, Tara. And I was like, and that wasn't the first time that happened. My brother would hear it too. Like he'd hear, it would sound like our mom, like it always sounded like our mom was calling us, like either my brother or she was calling me, or sometimes she was calling the both of us and we would both hear and she wouldn't be in the house. And it was like, and so I'm like, okay. And I know I'm not supposed to leave the house. My mom says, stay in the house, you know? So I'm like, okay. Cause at the time, I don't know, all parents were scared that their children's, their chitlins were going to get abducted. So it was like, don't leave the house. So I decided to get on the phone and call my friend Marshall, who is in the condo complex, like next to my house, the next street over. So I'm talking to Marshall on the phone and I was like telling her like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I heard my mom call me, but my mom's not here and I'm home alone. And she's like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah. And then just then the ceiling fan started moving. It's doing that thing again. And I was like, and the ceiling fan is moving all by itself. And I was like, and that thumping upstairs, I said, somebody is like doing a dance, or I was like, it's really starting to freak me out. And I was like, and I said, and I can hear like the silverware being moved in the kitchen. And she was like, girl, you better come on over right now. And I was like, I could get in trouble. She's like, you could get killed by ghosts. And I was like, okay, I'm over. I'm coming over right now. So like I hang up the phone and I just like, I close and lock the front door and I just like sprint down my hill all the way up her hill, and I get to Marshall's house and I'm telling her mom everything that happened. Her mom's like, she's like, I believe in ghosts. She's all, and I know not everything's an angel. She's all, baby, what you need to do is you need to pray to Jesus. You mean make Jesus make that go away. And she was like, cause they don't like him. And she was like, so you see bad things, you pray to Jesus. I was like, well, I do, but they don't always listen. And she's like, well, you need to pray louder and harder. I was like, okay. And she was like, and then she like made me a bunch of like good food. I wasn't supposed to, spoil my appetite, but they were eating some good food. So I was like, so I'm eating some, and then their phone rings, and it was my mom calling Marshall's mother and asking if I'm there. And her mom's like, yeah, Tara's here. She's just finishing up dinner. And my mom's like, what? She said, you tell her to get her little butt over here right now. So yeah, I thank Marshall's mom. I thank my friend Marshall, and I leave. I go back home, and my mom's like, what do you think you're doing? She goes, I come home, I'm calling all over the freaking house for you. I don't hear you. I think somebody's abducted you. I'm about 2 seconds from calling the police. And she was like, and then on top of it, you ate dinner. She was like, well, I guess you're not eating dinner tomorrow night if you're going to do things like that. And I was like, but I was scared. I was like, there's a ghost in the house. She's like, oh, please, there's only angels. And she goes, and if you're scared of an angel, then maybe you need to check the devil inside of you. And I was like, but I was like, it's scary though. I was like, I heard you call my name. And she was like, really? I called your name and I wasn't here. Then that means that I didn't call your name, right? And I was like, but I was like, and then there was somebody upstairs, and then there was something in the kitchen, and then the ceiling fan was turning. And my mom's like, well, tell it to go away. Hello? And she's all, it doesn't mean go leave the house, go to your friend's house. I don't know where you were. She goes, I didn't know where you were. I was going to call the police. I was like, but I was just at Marshall's house. So yeah, I was not angry that I got grounded. I was like, whatever. I'm not staying in this house with ghosts. I was like, they're going to freak me out when I'm all by myself. I'm leaving. And I did again, except I didn't run all the way to a friend's house. I decided to sit in the middle of the cul-de-sac, which my house was at the top of a cul-de-sac. And I just decided I'm going to sit in the middle of the cul-de-sac right on the sidewalk. I am not sitting in the house. I'm going to sit outside the house. I'm not at a friend's house. That way, if my mom drives up, I'm still there where she can see me and she doesn't have to call the police. I'm just not sitting in a house with ghosts. I speak my truth says, grab popcorn, guys. Oh, yes, do please. Heather says, why does it have to sound like someone we know? I have experienced that too. So does my daughter. Interesting. It says, yeah, it always sounded like my mom too. Did anybody else? So, wow, Heather too. Anybody else experience that as well, where you hear your parents' voice, maybe more specifically your mother, but your mother's not there? Because my friends, I would tell these things when I go back to school, and I would tell my friends like things that would happen, and my friends who were like, I grew up in like a Mexican neighborhood, and so it was like this widely accepted thing. Like even though everybody's parent was like Catholic, it was like a mixture of I don't know, like spiritualism, Catholic, like folk spiritualism. I don't know. It's a very unique Catholic blend down near the border. So like a lot of my friends' mothers and stuff used to sometimes have the priest come and do a blessing on a home. Like we had a priest come, or at least my grandma did. I guess this was before we started living there. Like she came and had a priest bless our house, and but sometimes in the neighborhood I grew up in, like sometimes it would be a priest, but it would also be like a curandero. Like it was usually male, like a male like healer, but like more like to heal the house. And so that person would be alongside a priest. So I don't know. It's just a little bit more unique in my neighborhood. So yeah, everybody, except for my parents, would believe, things that you would say when you say, "Hey, I see spirits." They'd be like, "Okay, well, make sure you have a rosary in hand, or make sure you have." That reminds me, if you guys are ever on Instagram, there is this Instagram channel called Latinos Against Spooky Shit, and it's all one word, and it's hilarious. Like the guy is so funny. Like he shows like video clips, and they're not all real. It's just like it's so he can make his jokes. So some are like made up, like fake ghosts, and some might be real. I don't know. But his thing is always like, get your abuela, get her chancla, make sure that you have Vicks Vapor Rub, lots of Fabuloso, maybe give the ghost a little bit of cafecito, so that, maybe make them a carne asada. So they leave your home. Anyway, go check him out. He's funny. It's not spooky at all, but it's funny because at the end of every video he makes, he always says, "If you think you saw something, no, you didn't." And that is exactly my brother's attitude. Is like every time he thinks he sees something, no, I didn't. Nope. um, so yeah, my brother, I could probably tell one of his stories because he's my brother. So mm. So okay, we're gonna fast forward to when I'm no longer a child. I was a teacher at the time. Um, I had already moved into my first house that I bought in San Diego, and I had this dream, and I think I told you guys about this dream, where well, I had a couple of pretty intense, like last two dreams of my grandma, but I haven't really dreamt of her since. And she would say that I wasn't going to dream of her anymore, which I was a little saddened by. I mean, I still feel her energy, but I don't dream of her anymore. Um, so in my dream, I'm standing in the middle of my street, where I bought my house. I'm like standing in the middle of the street, and and behind her is like she's outlined in this bright white light. It's like the rest of San Diego is like everything behind her is just this bright white light. And you can tell that there's all these people behind her, but they look like glowy people. They just glow this bright white light, and she's standing there, and it's like she's glowing too. It's like she's dressed in white or she's glowing white. I'm not really sure, but I know I could see her face, and I know it's my grandma. And I don't remember everything she said in that dream, but I do remember she was saying, like, "Honey, I'm so proud of you, and everything that you're doing with your life." And she says, "I feel like I don't have to watch over you anymore. I think you're going to be okay." Um, and she says, so I always felt very protective of you and your brother, and I always felt like I had to watch over you both. But she says, "I think you're going to be okay. I don't think you need me hanging around as much anymore. Your brother, on the other hand, I feel like I still have to guide him and watch over him and try my best to protect him." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she's all, "But I just want you to know, like, this is the last time you're going to see me in your dreams." And I was like, "Well, why?" I was like, "I like dreaming of you." And I was like, it's been so long and far in between when I do have dreams of you. I was like, "I like having dreams." And she's like, "I know," but she says, you already know where I'm here. Like, I'm here. She says, "I'm not going anywhere." So she goes, "I'm always nearby, but I don't have to like watch, like be super uber protective over you anymore." She was like, "You're going to be fine." And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." So, I gave my grandma a hug, and that really was the last dream I had of her. Well, so the next day, my brother calls me, and he's like, Tara, you know how like you're kind of spooky, right? He's like, I gotta, he says, I have a story for you. Maybe you can explain it. I've been trying to explain it. And I was like, okay. He says, so the night I was having my dream, he was up pretty late at night in his apartment. And he said he was having a beer, which he does. He found out that when he drinks alcohol, he stops hearing spirits and he stops feeling them. And so it's his way of kind of like, I guess, making spirits go away. So he was having himself a beer and he's on the couch, and he says that his phone lit up and he kind of looked over and he thought maybe somebody was texting him. And he looked, and all of a sudden he saw as if somebody was manipulating his screen, like it opened, like his phone opened, went to out of the lock screen into the home screen. Then he saw Spotify come up. So somebody pressed the Spotify app and he's just like sitting there with his beer, like watching it. And the phone is sitting all by itself on the armrest. His roommates were gone. He wasn't married at the time, so no wifey there. And he's just like watching it. And then Spotify comes up and then it's like scrolling through the list of songs. And then I don't remember what song he said it was, but some song popped up and started playing. And he says, and then just then he got this really lemony scent, which he always connected to our grandmother. So, which is interesting because when he smells lemons, he knows that's my grandma. When I smell Marlboro Reds, I know that's my grandma. So and he's always like, well, that perfume she used to wear. And I'm like, how did you smell that perfume over that cigarette smell? So for him, he smells her perfume. For me, I smell her cigarettes. He said, yeah, he goes, I smelt like really strong that lemon. And he says, and I was like, Grandma, stop. Grandma, go away. Grandma, I don't need you anymore. He's like, so he like quickly tried to like turn off his phone. He's like, stop it. And he's like, and then he says in the kitchen, he says, I heard a couple of things topple, like whatever it was, like coffee mugs or something in the cabinet. And he was like, and he says, so he just tried to like drink a couple beers and fall asleep as quickly as possible so that he wouldn't have to like contend with my grandmother. I guess he's like, I mean, he's all, do phones do that? I mean, I guess they could, right? Like if they got water on them. I was like, well, did you get water on your phone? Well, no. But I mean, do they do that? Do they? I mean, it could be like a malfunction, right? I was like, it malfunctioned by opening itself, opening an app, choosing its own music. You mean that kind of malfunction? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I think that was grandma. He's like, why? He's like, I'm like a man now. I don't need grandma hanging around me. So tell grandma to go away. I was like, well, I just had a dream last night and grandma said she's watching over you, but she's backed off of me. So have fun. he's like, no. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Oh, hey, Kath is here. Hey, Kath, how are you? I speak my truth, says, not him gaslighting himself. I'm like, what the heck? I was like, why is it? I said, that grandma hangs out in spirit sometimes. He's like, yeah. I was like, so why do you pretend that you don't see anything or hear anything? He's all, because it kind of freaks me out. He's all, I only believe what my five senses show me. And he was like, and he says, and your five senses can usually give you a pretty, like, basically he was saying like, level-headed explanation. And he says, when I don't have a level-headed explanation, it makes me think I'm crazy. And he's like, and I just don't want to deal with scary stuff. And I don't like ghosts. And he was like, and ghosts have been coming after me since I was like in elementary school. And he's like, I'm just tired of them. And it's like, I don't understand. What do they want from me? And I was like, maybe you could stop being such a jerk to them. Just maybe acknowledge their existence. Be like, hey, maybe set some boundaries, or you could say, get out of my house. I don't know. I was like, but don't just drink yourself to sleep. My goodness. But yeah, he would get freaked out. But yeah, we have a lot of stories with my grandma. My grandma was not a scary person. I loved my grandma. My grandma and my grandpa, my nana, my dad's mother. I love my grandparents. Like they were the coolest people ever. And my grandma, yeah, she was pretty protective over both my brother and I. Um, and even when she would visit us after she passed back in '96, um, it was never scary. I mean, maybe at first because there's like no logical, like your ego brain starts trying to roll through. This could be explained away in some sort of logic, and then when there is no logic of at least that the ego would be satisfied with, it's like so there's the initial like and then it's just grandma. Okay, you know. um, so yeah, I maybe I will tell a couple of my grandma stories. Yes. Hmm. So I'll tell you guys about. I think I told you about the one when I used to sleep upstairs, which was a little freaky. Um, but I will talk about the one where half my house burned down when I was like 16. So, okay, summer of my going into my junior year, I had just had my 16th birthday. So I don't need to get up early or anything. Don't have school, so I get to sleep in, whatever. So anyway, cut to night before the fire, the next morning. So the night before, I decide that, well, I mean, I'm just like getting ready for bed. Basically, I had to brush my teeth. I'm pulling back the covers on my bed. I'm getting like things ready for the morning. And I have this feeling all of a sudden, I'm like overcome with this feeling of something's going to happen tomorrow. Like, what am I going to get in trouble for? Like, for me, whenever something happens, it probably means I'm getting in trouble for something. So I'm like, what am I getting in trouble for? I was like, what didn't I do? I'm like, okay, I did the dishes. I swept the floor. I cleaned the kitchen. I cleaned the bathroom. Um, I helped my brother take out the trash. I'm like, what am I missing? And I'm like, I helped clean up the living room. I'm like, what am I missing? And I'm like, what am I going to get in trouble for? I was like, what is happening tomorrow? Like, I just had this nagging feeling like something is happening tomorrow. And then just then I hear my brother shout from his room, and his room was directly facing my bedroom. And I hear, Tara. And I was like, what? And he's like, never mind. I was like, okay. So I went to bed. Um, and then the next morning, the smoke alarm is going off. But that's really no reason to panic, because our smoke alarm would sometimes just go off on its own. And so we figured maybe it was just because it didn't have batteries, it was like wired into the house. So we figured maybe it was just faulty wiring. But it always did seem, if it was going to go off, it usually went off at 3 a.m. on the dot, which is kind of strange. But this time it wasn't 3 a.m. on the dot. It was early morning, but it wasn't 3 a.m. It was, I mean, the sun was already up and everything. And this is summertime. So I'm just like laying there and I'm like thinking, oh God, stupid smoke alarm. I'm trying to sleep in. It's my summer vacation. I'm like, why am I even awake right now? So I'm just like laying there in bed. I'm just like, like, and I don't want to have to get up and freaking mess with the smoke alarm and grab a ladder. I'm like, so I'm just laying there. And all of a sudden my brother comes running down the hall, and he runs in front of my bedroom, and his eyes are like big, like saucers. Like he looks terrified. And he's like, Tara, there's a fire. And I was like, oh my God, get out of the house. And I was just like, so I'm like in my PJs, and I get out. And as I stood at, out of my bedroom, I'm looking down the hallway directly down into that uh, like extra room that I told you, the extension to the house that I told you my grandfather built. And I can see through the sliding glass window into that room that the room is on fire. Like I could see the computer is on fire. The table next to it had just caught fire. Like I just saw it go, and I was like, I just like, oh. And so I ran upstairs because my mom was sleeping upstairs at the time. Like her and my dad weren't sleeping in the same room. And so I ran upstairs and I was like, Mama, there's a fire. And my mom like throws off the covers. My mom's naked. I was like, ah. And she's like, get out of the house, grab your brother, grab the dog, get out of the house. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'm like running down the stairs and literally looking down the stairs. It's already so black with smoke. I can't even see the bottom of the stairs. It was literally that fast that the house filled up with smoke. It was insane. So I make it down the stairs and I don't know. I hope none of you have been in like a fire, because it's no bueno. But it's like the smoke itself is so hot that when you breathe, you feel like your lungs are on fire. Like it was, and your throat closes up. Like you literally can't breathe because it's like your body won't let you breathe in all that carbon monoxide. So I'm like trying to breathe, going, but my lungs are burning. And so I'm trying to do what they teach you in school, crawl on all fours, go below the smoke. But yeah, what happens when the smoke is all the way down to the floor? Okay. How do you crawl your way out of that? So I'm like army crawling. And I see that the dog is running circles like underneath the dining table. Like the dog is just like, doesn't know what to do. She's just like whimpering. She's running in circles. I grab the dog. I grab my brother. I throw both of them out the front door. And then I realized I have to call 911. So I army crawl it back into the house. Again, I'm like, I can't breathe. I have my pajamas. I'm trying to put my pajamas over my nose, but it's not really helping. And I crawl over to where the desk is in the living room where we had a cordless phone and there's like a cradle where the phone sits in. And like I'm reaching up on top of the desk trying to feel for the phone. And somebody didn't put the freaking phone back in the cradle when they were done. And I'm just like, muttering to myself as I'm like dying of smoke inhalation. And so now I have to army crawl it over to the sofa and try to feel in the cushions to see if somebody put the phone in there. And lo and behold, the phone was in the cushions of the couch. And so I grab the phone and I go back outside. My mom has now put on some clothes, sort of bathrobe, whatever. And she's grabbing the garden hose that was out front because she's pulling it into the house because my mom was going to try to put out the fire herself or something. And I am dialing 911. I'm on the phone to 911. At the same time, I'm like knocking, more like pounding on neighbors' doors to like help, and I would see them close their blinds. Like people just don't want anything to do with your drama, even if your house is on fire. And that's what happens when you grow up in the hood. Like nobody wants to get involved because cops might show up and people don't like the cops in the neighborhood. So my neighbors weren't opening their doors. They were just going to go ahead and let my house burn down. The neighbors across the way are just standing in their open driveway, smoking their cigarettes, like watching the house burn. They're just like, I'm like, really? So I'm on the phone and I'm trying to tell them, I said, my name is Tara. They say, how old are you? I'm 16. And they're like, how many people in the house? 4, but my dad's at work. And I was like, it's just me, my brother, my mom, so I'm giving all this information. What's your address? They kept asking me again. And then all of a sudden I hear the phone go, and I didn't realize that was because the cradle had just melted and I lost connection with the phone. And so I'm thinking there's something wrong with the phone. And while I'm on the phone, though, this neighbor from across the street, the one neighbor who's not a freaking D-bag, he comes sprinting over and he's like, where's your hose? And mind you, actually at this time, this is like before the neighbors are like smoking and like watching my house burn down. This is before smoke could actually be seen coming out of our windows. So he runs over and he's like, do you have a hose out back? And I said, I do. And he was like, okay. And he just like ran through our backyard. And I don't know. I didn't really have time to process how the neighbor would know that our house was on fire. Yes, the smoke alarm was going off, but a lot of people's smoke alarms went off all the time. People don't run to your rescue when they hear smoke alarm going off. And so, eventually the fire department shows up, an ambulance shows up. And the ambulance is trying to get my mom and my brother and I to go into the ambulance. And my mom's having a haggle over how much is this going to cost our insurance. And my daughter can drive us. And they said, well, your daughter clearly has a bunch of smoke inhalation. And if she passes out while driving, that's like no good for anybody. So like, you should just like come with us. And so I don't know what they they gave my mom to make her pass out so that she would have to unwittingly submit to an ambulance ride, because they were like, it's critical that we get her to, we get all of you to UCSD Medical Center. And she kept saying, no, we have Kaiser. We need to go to Kaiser. And they were like, ma'am, Kaiser doesn't have a burn unit. Your son has second and third degree burns on his hands and legs. Like, you need to go to a burn ward. And they're like, she's like, no, my daughter's going to drive us to Kaiser. And then from Kaiser, if they want to send us somewhere, then my daughter can. And they're like, okay, they had enough of whatever she was doing. So they were just like, here, take this shot, go to sleep. So anyway, while my mom's haggling with the paramedics for some whatever stupid reason, my brother and I are sitting on the stoop of our house, and my brother's just crying, and I'm like, it's okay, Brian. And he's like, no, it's my fault. And I was like, how could that be your fault? And I said, I said, you didn't start the fire in the house. He's like, no, it's my fault. He says, because he said, he says, last night how I called your name? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, that's because I saw grandma just like appear in my doorway, and I got scared, and I was like, Tara. And he says, but grandma was like, no, like, just wait, like, hear me out. And he says, so I listened, and she said, something bad is going to happen tomorrow. You need to wake your sister up early. And he was like, I said, okay. He says, and then she said, I'm going to go warn your sister now. And he said, she turned around and she walked into your room. And I said, that's why I got that weird feeling. And he's like, yeah. He says, except the next morning, I forgot what grandma said. And he says, I went to go play on the computer, and then I went into the kitchen to get a drink of orange juice. So he says, I was just like drinking my orange juice, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I thought it was, like the ghosts that we have. So I just like tried to ignore it. And then I kind of like looked over, and I realized that the computer was on fire. And he's like, so I ran over there, and he's like, I tried to put it out with his hands, which is how he burned his hands. He was trying to like put the fire out. And he says, but then the fire had some of the embers had gotten onto the plastic cover on our pool table, and it was turning into liquid plastic. And so since that was on fire on the carpet, my brother tried to stomp it out, and he got liquid plastic fire all over his legs. And so then he tried to do, he says, what they teach you in school, which is stop, drop, and roll. So he's trying to roll around, but it's not putting the fire out on his legs. So then he used his hands again to try to put the fire out on his legs. And that's how he got his second and third degree burns on his hands and his legs. He says, and then it was at that time he decided to run over and come wake me up. But he was like, I should have done that earlier, because grandma said, if I do it earlier, then maybe you could have stopped it or something. I was like, no. I said, this is not your fault. And I was like, and I didn't realize he was burned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's telling me this. And so later we learned from the neighbor. And by the way, this neighbor, he had some sort of like incurable cancer or something. And they gave him basically a couple of weeks to live. But he ended up having some sort of miraculous recovery, and he was in full remission, and so he was like, this is like 6 months to a year later, past when he was supposed to pass away. And this incurable cancer just kind of went away. And he said that an angel came to him in his room while he was sleeping and said, the neighbors need help. Go over there and grab their hose right now. And he says, I ran to your house. That's why I asked you for a hose. And they told me to go into the backyard. And that's where the fire was. That's where that extension to the house is in the backyard. And so I thought the neighbor was breaking the windows, because I heard the windows busting in the back of the house. Turns out it was so hot in that room that it was blowing out the windows. Like it was a ball of fire in that house. When we got to come back to the house after, like, I stayed with my cousin for a while, because my brother and my mother had to stay over at the hospital because they had a lot of smoke inhalation, and my brother had those burns. And so he was getting skin grafts for his burns. But yeah, so when we came back in and it was time for cleanup, which, oh my gosh, like getting black oily ash, whatever, off the walls is just nasty business. And there was, so in the living room, the blinds melted. In between the two windows that had the blinds, we have a bookcase, and it has all our family photos, photos of me and my grandma. All those photos, perfect, didn't burn, but the blinds burned and melted. The phone melted, but right above the phone is a picture of my great great grandmother from Ireland. Picture was fine. Old ass picture, up there. And I remember asking the firefighters when they came back for their big fan that they brought to, like, so that your house doesn't, just have water sitting in it from their hose. I asked them, I said, how come, like, all the pictures didn't melt in our house, but everything else melted? And I said, but these flimsy little pictures didn't melt. And I said, and how is it that, I said, in that room where it was so hot that the windows were blowing out, I said, I had a Barbie doll that was sitting across from the computer. My Barbie doll was fine. Of the whole room, like the records melted, everything melted. My Barbie doll, my one doll that I had, in that room, it was fine. And they said, well, what we come to know is that sometimes in a fire, there's something called hot spots. And so some parts might get hotter than others when a house is on fire. And it just so happens that everything that you cherish was in a cooler spot, whereas everything else was hot. And I was like, yeah, but look at those windows. I said, heat was coming through that whole wall and it left the bookcase alone. I was like, it melts the blinds, but leaves the bookcase. I was like, it melts the phone and the Rolodex and everything below it. I said, but above it, a freaking daguerreotype like photograph is fine. Something that would just, like, poof if heat got too close to it. And they're like, yeah, that just happens. I'm like, right. But yeah, so there you go. That's one time where I think my grandma really was like, she was working overtime trying to, save the family there. But yeah, that was crazy. That's also where I kicked a doctor in the mouth, but that's a different story. That's not a spooky, but I thought that they were torturing my brother because he was screaming. I didn't know that they were scraping off the burned skin so they could do the skin graft, and that's why he was screaming his head off. So I was just like, what are you doing with my brother? And they're like, he's fine. What are you doing with my brother? And so I was like, and they're like trying to like they wanted to put a camera down my throat because they wanted to look into my lungs and see how much like burn I had. So like everybody's like touching me. I'm like overwhelmed. I'm like in shock or whatever. I'm like, let me see my brother. And then this doctor was like, just happened to be right there. I was just like, yeah, I like kicked him in the face. And then they gave me some sort of shot and then I was calm. I was real calm afterwards. Let's see. Oh, hey, Delisha is here. Hey, my friend. How are you? Delisha says, are we doing questions? Well, yes, we are going to be going into questions very soon. Saren says, Sarah, I felt called to do a reading for you. Do the colors blue and white mean anything for you, especially blue? That seems to be important. Well, turquoise blue is one of my favorite colors. So, I don't know. I've just always associated it with being in San Diego, the colors blue and white. And it's the color of the skirt that I'm wearing right now. I have a blue and white heart skirt. See? Yay! Yeah, turquoise blue, one of my favorite colors. And thank you, by the way. Delisha said story time. All right. So yeah, Delisha, I will go over our plant ally for the week, and then you'll be first for our super chat super stickers questions. So I'd be more than happy to answer a question for you, of course. Delisha says, I'm getting a blue Russian person, female cat. I have been waiting for a few days. She is coming on the 5th of May. So excited for her. She will be my companion. We already have a 5-year-old dog at home. Oh my goodness. Oh, blue Russian Persian cat. That must be a beautiful, beautiful kitty. Oh my goodness. And Cass says, me too. Teal blue. Wow. Well, that is my color. It's also my favorite stone, hemimorphite. It's very pretty blue. Um, Delisha says, "Oh yeah, for her question, how will my bond be with her coming in? I have kept her name already, Faye. I am already connected to her, so emotionally she will be my soulmate. Awesome, gray color, furry, furry with beautiful eyes. Oh, she sounds so pretty. Oh, little kitty. Well, yeah. So you will be very first in line for our questions, of course. Okay. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the story time. I wonder if I have one quick little one, maybe just one that's not terribly long, before we get into our herb. Let's see. I mean, like, I'm like, which one do I pick? Because there's like a lot. Um, well, there was my dorms too. That was interesting. Um, hmm. Hmm. Um, okay, I'll quickly tell the one. Um, Again, this would be when I'm younger again. So it was when I would get like sleep paralysis every once in a while. I mean, kind of often, but not every day though. But I would get that when I was growing up and in that bedroom. And so I remember actually quite clearly the nightmare that I was having. And so and I don't remember how old I was. I mean, I could have been in middle school, maybe it could have been sixth grade. So maybe somewhere between sixth grade and eighth grade. And in my nightmare, um, there's like these monsters in my house, and but like stereotypical monsters like Dracula and Wolfman and the Mummy, and and they're like big and scary, and they're coming after me, and I'm like running away, like telling these monsters to leave me alone. And I wake up, and I'm in my bedroom, but I can't move. Like I can move my eyes, but like I can't move my body, and I'm like, it's like, I don't know, like my body hasn't woken up yet or something. It's like everything's so heavy. Like I can't move my arms, I can't move my legs. And I happen to look over on the side of my bed, and there's a woman sitting on the edge of my bed, like near my side. And she's not scary, but she looks weird. Like she's outlined in green. Like it's just an outline. Like it's not a solid person. Like it's just an outline, but the outline is green. And she kind of looks like wearing one of those like Laverne and Shirley sweaters. Like she's got her initials on her sweater. I don't remember what the initials are. I just know that it was cursive initials. She's kind of got a 60s hairstyle with like a wide headband. And yeah, she looks like she's from the 60s. She has plaid, like pedal pushers on. And I'm, and she's like leaning towards me. Like she's got her hand, and it's like she's leaning towards my head. And I'm like, oh, and so like I close my eyes, and that freaking dream is still happening. I'm like, and I look at, and there's like a ghost on the side of my bed. But every time I close my eyes, I'm having a stupid nightmare. And so then I look at the foot of my bed, and again, all I can do is like move my eyes, and I'm like looking at the foot of my bed, and it looks like Wall Street. Like it looks like New York. There's all these men in like suits and trench coats, and they have briefcases, and it's like I don't know, the streets of Manhattan at the foot of my bed, but they're all in black and white. It's like not full color, and they're just like, it's very quiet, of like these hundreds of people just walking past my bed, like it's like Wall Street, and then I'm like looking at them like, what is happening? I'm looking at this ghost. What is happening? I'm closing my eyes. No, I don't want to see that. So then I finally was able to move one arm. I was like, ugh, but it took like all the strength I had. And I like took my sheet, and I just like put it over my head, and I laid there with my eyes closed until eventually I must have fallen asleep. But yeah, that was, woo. Again, a common occurrence in that house. Um, Let's see. Delisha says, I have been through sleep paralysis for a really long time. It was a horrifying experience for me on a personal level. Um, you got connected to my energy somewhere. Yeah, it's a gosh, I used to experience that a lot when I was younger. I mean, since then in adulthood, I maybe have experienced it a handful of times, but not like when I was a kid or a teenager. It was often, and I even would experience it. Well, maybe not as often as in my house, but I experienced it when I was away at college too, like in the dorms. And it was just, I don't know, it just feels like you have to use all the strength you have just to like move your hands and like turn your head. It's so weird. And I mean, scientifically, they're like, oh, it could be that the body hasn't caught up to the functional mind, or it could be that there's like, it could be many layers, spiritual reasons as well as 3D reasons. But I don't like the sleep paralysis. So which, although like Riley doesn't like the foot of the bed tucked in, the sheets tucked in, because for him it kind of brings back memories of like Maria sitting on the foot of his bed. Where for me, I don't care if like the foot of the bed is tucked in. I just don't like the sides tucked in, because then I feel like I'm trapped and I feel like I'm having sleep paralysis again. And so I need to be like free to move and be like, do acrobatics in my sleep. Like, so, anywho, um, Delisha says, I remember one scary lady in my stream who was in the disguise of a girl child. Later, she came into her original form, and I was scared as hell. She caught and grabbed me. It was like my heart came out, and I tried waking up from the dream really hard. Like I knew it was a dream, but not able to move or get out from it. Wow. Yeah, that's the thing is sometimes I'm fully awake. Like I know I'm awake. I just can't move my body. But somehow, like at the moment I close my eyes, like that dream state's still going on. It's like a weird, I don't know, like quasi state. And in this house, this has happened like once. And I think I told you guys about it. It was I don't know what that was. Couldn't really tell you. But I don't remember what dream I was having. I don't think I was having any nightmares or anything. But I woke up because I thought that Riley's sister was at the door, because sometimes she pokes her head in and like once has something to share or ask a question or something. And she wears like a big coat sometimes because she gets cold, and so it makes like a swishy sound. So I thought that was her coming into the room. But then, and I'm like laying there even though my eyes are closed, and I'm just like thinking like quite clearly we're asleep and the lights are off. But I thought like maybe she really was just aching to ask a question, like was gonna like wake us up or something. And I was just like, well, that's strange. So I'm trying to like, I'm listening to see whose side of the bed she goes to, because I want to know who she's going to try to wake up to like ask this question. So I hear like her moving, because she moves, kind of at a slower pace, and I hear the swishing of what I think is the coat. And it's towards my side of the bed. And so I'm like, and so then it's like she stopped like right where my head is on the bed. And I was like, was she's just going to stand there and watch me? So like I opened my eyes, and it's not her. It's like some I don't know, it's like uh the Hunger Games, the woman that like starts picking people as tribute. And she kind of looks like that lady. Like her face is so white, and she's got tight red curly hair, like short, like she's got a perm, like red, bright red, like flaming red, like ridiculously red, curly hair and a top hat. And she's wearing what looks like a Victorian dress, and she's kind of all dressed in black, it looks like, but the bedroom doesn't quite look right either. Like all of a sudden my purse, which I don't keep next to my bed, is next to the bed, and everything that's normally on Riley's side of the room is now on my side of the room. So it's like the room switched. It just looked weird. And I was just like, and she says, "You've been hiding treats from me." And she's like digging through my purse and she grabs something. And I was like, hey, and I mean, I'm not scared of this lady, but I'm just like so confused. Like, who are you? Why are you in the house? Why is my purse there? Like, what? I'm like so confused. And she gets up and she just had this like crazy smile on her face and she's like scurrying away and she keeps like looking back at me. And I was like, hey, so I like felt like I was having a little bit of sleep paralysis, but I was finally like, ugh. I sat myself up in bed and I was like trying to talk, but no voice was coming out. And I was like, so finally I was like, thief, thief, thief. And I'm like, but I can't yell. It was like, it was so strange. And she just was like scurrying towards the stairs and she just kept looking back at me. And even then the stairs, we can't see it from our bedroom, but in this way I could, like, all of a sudden you could see the stairs and she's going up the stairs and she keeps like smiling and looking at me with whatever it was she took out of my purse. And I was like, and I'm like going, thief, thief. And so then I turn over and I'm trying to like shake Riley and I'm like, wake up, wake up. It's a thief. It's a thief. And like, he wouldn't wake up. And I was like, so I just sat there in bed for a while and I was just like, and I like, but then when I like was like blinking and looking around, all of a sudden the room looked normal again. Like my purse wasn't next to the bed. And like, again, like the stairs moved back. So like, I can't see the stairs from our bedroom door. And I'm just like, what the heck? Because I'm literally sitting there with my eyes open. I was yelling thief to whatever it was I thought I was seeing. And like, and Riley just wouldn't wake up. And isn't that like always the story? At least for me, it's like whenever I'm like seeing something and it's usually at night, and I mean, not always at night, but oftentimes it's at night. Nobody else is awake. Nobody else will wake up. It's just me. Nobody else is here to witness it. The only other person that would be my brother. That was the only other person that would wake up. Delisha says, I have sleepwalked also once 2 years back for the first time. My brother is a sleepwalker. He is a sleepwalker, sleep talker. He'll do everything, but his eyes are closed the whole time. I don't know about him now that he's an adult. But yeah, he used to do quite a bit of sleepwalking and talking. You can hold whole conversations with him. He won't remember it at all the next morning. Heather says, I've experienced sleep paralysis myself. It's your body's way of protecting yourself. This is what I read a long time ago. Still freaky. Definitely agree that there's more to it than I wasn't satisfied with the answer. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's probably just an endless rabbit hole. Delisha said, yes, exactly. You feel helpless. Yeah. And I feel always so alone. I'm like, wake up, people. Nobody wants to wake up and join in on my experience. Okay. Well, you know what? I think that maybe I will do our herbal ally after our Q&A, so that, Delisha, you don't have to wait too long. So let's go ahead and look at your question. So it's about connecting with your, what looks like very, very adorable, newly adopted furry family member. So let's see. What herb or what can we do to strengthen that bond and that connection? Because I feel like energetically, you guys are already, making a connection. I feel like anytime anybody comes into our life, whether they are a bird or dog, cat, fish, whatever, there's already that connection. And, souls choose each other. And so there's a reason this kitty's coming in, is because you guys have already this connection. But I understand you wanting to strengthen this connection. So what herb I could take a look ski. Actually, I'm going to use this book. I know there's not an ailment happening. I just think it might be useful. So let me see here. And Delisha says, it's 4:44. I'm here in India. Hey, well, earlier Heather had it at 3:33. Now we're at 4:44. And actually, interestingly enough, over on the res, the gas right now is $4.44. Wish it were cheaper, but you know, that's the cheapest we can get right now. Okay. Hmm. Okay. I mean, while I'm looking something up, um, I know it sounds like you know whatevs, but I know okay, cats like catnip. Not all cats. It's not like a guarantee. Just like you know, not all people like certain herbs. Well, but a lot of cats. And at one point, I was growing catnip in my backyard in San Diego, and I kept wondering, like, it looked like something large was sleeping in that bed because like all the plants would be smushed down the next morning like a big circle. And one night, I heard some noises in our backyard, and I turned on the black back floodlight, and I saw that there was a mountain lion that had been sleeping on my catnip in the backyard. So, I mean, catnip helps to calm and helps bring in giant kitties. But I'm ooh yes, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Okay, so anyway, so if you wanted to, you could, um, you know, maybe get some fresh catnip, and cats sometimes eat it. Sometimes they just want to chew on it, and every cat's different. Um, and it's safe, you know. But and like I said, not every cat is into catnip, but your cat might be. But if you have it fresh, you can like tear it off in pieces and you know put it on their, like if they have a claw pad or something, you can put it on there. If you have it in dried form, you can sprinkle it on their little claw pad, and they like all their little eyes roll in the back of their head, and they really like it. But what would be kind of cool is if, while Kitty is having some catnip, you might have some catnip tea, because catnip for people is also really soothing. It's good for the central nervous system, and it brings in feelings of warmth and comfort and familiarity. And so, although it may look like your cat is going psycho because they're on catnip, on little like cat weed, it actually also helps to calm their nervous system. It doesn't look like that on the outside because they're like doing zoomies all around the house. But it does help them to feel safe. And so I just have this, it just kept coming to me, catnip. And I do have some catnip that's growing there in my little seedlings. Um, but if you guys could share in this herb, and it's not just the herb, it's the act of like, I'm trying to be a part of your world, and you know, and hopefully you know you feel comfortable being a part of my world. I'm sharing in something that you like to do. I like to do it too. If catnip is not available in your area, you might have valerian. Valerian, at least to me, is a little on the stinky side, but my cats used to go wild for valerian, and I became their most favorite person in the whole world because I would give them valerian instead of catnip. I mean, they're okay with catnip. They looked like crazy kitties, but when they had valerian, they were just like Wally's eyeball would be like spinning in his eye, his eye socket, you know. Um, so, so I would say catnip, maybe do a little catnip. But also, I'm looking into blood, because I was thinking, you know, like family connection in the 3D is like blood connection. So, what does it say in here about blood? Nope. Nope. It's like talking about all these blood disorders. And like I said, I know that there's no disorder coming on. I just feel like it's got some good things to say about certain things. Ooh. Oh, interesting. So I was kind of going off of what Siren was saying earlier, you know, and other people in the chat were like, kept feeling like this teal blue color, like blue, blue, blue. And I'm looking through the blood section, and look what's at the bottom of the blood section. Like down here, it says, you might also want to see blue baby. I was like, what? So I decided to look at the paragraph above it. Okay. I accept my freedom to choose and to move about as I want. I make myself respected and I express my needs. I ask for help if necessary. I no longer need to justify myself. I live from my heart. I take care of myself. I fully enjoy life. If that were a cat speaking to us, I'm sure those are the words that they would say. Do cats not like to be independent? Yes, they do. They like to be their own person. Like, don't confine me. Don't just let me do my thing. Where dogs are very, pack animals. They like to have pack leader and all of that. And cats just, they like to just be left alone. I mean, sometimes they want to welcome you into the world, but they want to be independent. And so I have a feeling, just kind of thinking about the attitude that most cats have and kind of what they symbolize, which is independence and being very particular about the people that they invite into their lives. And obviously, this kitty has chosen you. That's a big deal. Even though you're like, well, I don't know, maybe the kitty hasn't met you yet. Energetically, kitty has, and so um, I feel like you guys are going to be able to help each other in this department. So maybe the first thing, just like with getting to know a new friend, is sharing things that are in common. So maybe, like I said, maybe a little catnip tea, maybe a little catnip for the kitty, um, but also allow the cat to teach you about independence and about choosing friends wisely, choosing what I give my action to, my strength, my energy to, basically, because cats like to sleep a lot. They conserve their energy and then they put it towards, fun things, playing, doing zoomies, chasing birdies. I don't know. They're very selective about what they use their energy on. And so maybe this could be a helpful learning for you, but also some things that you can teach your cat about being human as well. So I think that this is going to be a wonderful back and forth bonding. I would say just the biggest thing, really listen, not just with your eyes and your ears, but just paying attention, like look and feel into, like, what are my cat's habits? What's the cat doing right now? What do I feel like the cat is feeling, at this moment? If the cat is feeling scared, like, why is that? And put yourself in the cat's shoes, so to speak. If you were being adopted into a new home, you might be a little cautious of the people who were adopting you because you don't know them. You don't know what kind of people they are. So over time, it's their actions that show you that it's okay. So same thing with the cat, just showing the cat that it's okay. I'm here as your family member. I'm here because I love you. I'm here to help you. And I'm really listening to you. I'm not just doing like, oh, according to the book, it says I need to feed you right now. And according to this book, it says I need to put a kitty box out for you. And, it's really feel into, this cat, just like parents have to do with a baby. Babies don't have language yet. I mean, at least that we're aware of. And so they have to like feel into, what does the baby want right now? Is the baby hungry? Is the baby scared? Does the baby want to play? Like, the baby need a diaper change? They have to feel into it. So I think this is going to be really good for you. I know you said that you already have a dog, but it's going to be an interesting, nice balance, nice feminine, masculine balance in the house. So I say have lots of fun and definitely try out sharing some catnip if it's feasible in your area. Let's see, let's go back here. Oh, I Speak My Truth is back. Heather says, I'm going to go relax. Thank you so much for the chat session. That spooky story time. Love you all to the moon. Same to you, my friend. It was nice to unwind with you all. I saw 4442 already. Have a blessed one. Have a great Sunday. Have a beautiful week. We have Cinco de Mayo coming up. I Speak My Truth says, are you doing mini free reads? I'd love for one. So they're not really readings, so to speak. I have a little Q&A section with my super chats and super stickers. So it's just whatever you feel comfortable, a little donation. And it could be all kinds of questions from like, how do you make cheese? Or, from raw milk, or, could be a gardening question, could be, I've been having an upset stomach for the past week. Like, what would you recommend for an upset stomach? So everything's kind of, the questions, I try to look at them from a, what could I look at to help guide you on that journey to help you find the answer. So not me find the answer for you, but for you to find the answer yourself. So like for Delisha, who has had a question about connecting to her kitty, it's just more suggestions like, these are some things that you could do instead of saying, this is exactly how your cat is feeling, because again, that would be go directly against what she was asking. Like, I want to connect to my cat. It's harder, to connect to something if somebody else is saying, well, this is what your cat wants. This is what your cat needs. You need to figure out what your cat wants, what your cat needs. Like that's actually the thing that she was asking. How do I build a better connection? So just kind of like helping you to find the answers. So a little different, not quite a reading, so to speak. I speak my mind. Said Zoomies. I have a cat too. Yeah, I used to have Wally and Loki, and Presley, but Presley is in he crossed the rainbow bridge. Delisha said, "Thank you. I will definitely talk to her about you." She's gonna be like meow 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 meow. I speak my truth. Says, got it. So yeah, it's a little bit different. I've been feeling that for a while. Like I felt honored to do readings for people. I felt honored to do channelings. But then it was just this, like you can say, it was even like the creator speaking to me. It was like, if my thing has always been to empower others. I've always wanted that. I love building community. I like people coming together, helping each other out, and the more varied our beliefs, backgrounds, talents, I think the better, because that's what creates a wonderful community. But also I've always wanted people to feel like, I can do things myself. I can do this, that I don't always have to, give my power away to someone else to do something. So I was like, well, how could I help others? And I'm still figuring it out, by the way. Like, how could I help empower others to be able to find the answers for themselves without saying through my own filter and through my own soul, like, oh, this is what this person needs. Like, oh, here's the message. Like, but that's just through my point of view. Like, I have been feeling like people can find their messages. And oftentimes when people get readings, they're just really getting validation for things they already felt. So if that's true, and and messages are coming to us, our own personal messages from creator or wherever, in different ways, is like we get feelings, we have dreams, we have things show up in our body, and even our bodies, our physical bodies, are like giving us messages. And so I'm like, okay, well, what if I could help guide people in that direction? Of like, just give me a flashlight. I need a flashlight. I just need some illumination on, what I need to do or where I need to go, or kind of, help me, point me in the right direction. So I'm like, okay, I will help point you in the right direction. But then ultimately, I want people to be able to say, okay, I found the answer myself. And I think it just makes people feel so much more confident in themselves. If we're like, wow, I did it. I was able to find the answer. It's one thing for like somebody to tell me, oh, Tara, you need to, start learning how to, I don't know, start learning how to take care of goats or something. And I'm like, okay, but why? It wouldn't make any sense to me. But if I'm on my own little journey and I'm like, you know what? I know why I need to start taking care of goats right now. I think I should start doing that. Then it's like, I feel just so much more confident. And that's what I want to instill in people, is I want to help people build their own confidence and sovereignty. But also, yes, we could speak openly together in community. So like I said, I don't have it all down pat, but I'm trying my best to help in that guiding process. And I speak my truths as makes sense. So yeah, so if anybody else would like to do a super chat or super sticker, we could do that now, and then afterwards we can share my little herbal ally. I'll try not to spend too much time on it, because I know I got to tell you guys a lot of stories today. So I don't want to keep you too long on a Sunday. You know what I like about these mugs that have lids? It keeps them warmer longer. It's just nice. Like if you don't want to have a full on like thermos. And surprisingly, even though this is made of glass, albeit double walled glass, it keeps it fairly warm. Hmm. Okie dokie. Alrighty. So, what I was feeling for our herb for the week, and by the way, speaking of herbs, if you are somebody who, speaking of the whole sovereignty and self empowerment thing, if you've been like looking into like wanting to make certain foods from scratch, or like how do I just like make my own shampoo from scratch, or just things that you normally go to other people for, like I go to the store to get my shampoo, deodorant, all these things. I go buy honey, or there is this book called The Made from Scratch Life, and it's by Melissa K. Norris. Yeah, Melissa K. Norris. And I have one of her other books too. It's called The Family Garden, and I picked up a lot of gardening tips from her. But in here, she has tons of like family recipes from like the 1800s and the 1700s. Just like going back in time, just basically learning from our ancestors, relearning really, how to do some things that they used to do just for themselves every day. But we've gotten to a point in our society where we're like, oh, well, I could just run to the store. Why would I do it for myself? But there's just something about doing certain things for yourself. Yes, you can go to the store, you can go to a restaurant, you can, have somebody else do these things, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, sometimes I just like to do things myself, and it just feels good. It's like I made that. Like that's why I get so excited. I tell people I made cheese, and probably other people's like I don't care, but for me, it feels really good. Like freaking, I made cheese. Like the thing that I used to buy from the store all the time, and I used to be like, I wonder how they used to make cheese. And turns out it's pretty freaking easy. And I'm like, I made cheese. It's like, I feel so like, I don't know, like cool or something. like I'm in with the cool kids or whatever. The cool kids were living like it's 1822. And I really like it. But yeah, so if you're interested in just learning how to do some things for yourself and having it explained in a very easy to understand way, then Melissa K. Norris is your girl. She also has a YouTube channel, so you can check her out. Just type in Melissa K. Norris, and I think her podcast shows up, but then also her YouTube channel shows up. Trying to think. Also, when she's the way she writes, she's a mom and a wife, and so she talks about how when she's doing these things, how she tries to incorporate her family members too. And so I don't know. I think it's a good book. Just thought I would share it with you. All right, I speak my truth. What's up? Thank you so much. So yes, let me know what your question is. And yeah. Have a little sippy of my tea. Oh, I hear one of the doggos. They got a little squeaky. It's still so good. Whether it's hot or lukewarm, it's still so good. Okay, so I speak my truth. Said, hey, how do you know when you're making the right choice, keeping distance and no contact with blood? So our DNA, our blood. I hope that makes sense. No, it makes total sense, because I can relate. So hopefully this personal anecdote will help you in understanding if you made the right choice or not. So there were two people in my family I've had a difficult time with. And yes, this is like my blood related, family, not the family that I have chosen here on earth, like my friends and certain other family members. And there was one of my family members. This is my father's one of his brothers, and he's my godfather. And in my family, it's always been taught that you always respect your elders, that it's family, even no matter how poorly they treat you or how they talk to you, it's always, but they're family. And so I've always had the attitude, I was like, well, I guess it's my family. So it's like, I just have to endure the way they speak and the way they treat me and things like that. And it wasn't until, and I would have these phone calls with my godfather, and I never felt good after the phone calls, or even if I hung out with him, which was rare. I didn't really want to hang out with him because he wasn't a fun person to hang out with. I never felt good. I started really honing in on, how do I feel? How do I feel after I talk to this person? How do I feel after I hang out with this person? Do I feel drained? Do I feel bad about myself? Am I more angry? Because normally when we're with people that we have a nice balanced relationship, we feel pretty good. Even when we get into arguments with people that we love, we don't hate them and they don't hate us. We understand that arguments happen. This is something that's different, where you genuinely feel this, like, I wish this person wasn't blood. I wish I didn't have to talk to this person. I wish I didn't have to hang out with this person. If that's the feeling that's coming up, that's definitely, our emotions speak to us. Your body speaks to us. So if your body is like doing some sort of revolt, like maybe you get sick every time you talk to this person, maybe you get an upset stomach, maybe you get a headache after you talk to this person, really hone in, what is your body saying? What are your emotions saying? Um, and I really started listening, to myself. I was like, I don't feel good emotionally every time I get off the phone with this person, or, and even when the phone rings and I see the caller ID, that it's my uncle, and I'm just like, ugh, like there's this wave of like, ugh, like, if I don't answer the phone, that means I have to call him back. And then if I never call him back, he thinks I'm dodging him. And then it's like you start running through all these things about like all the reasons why you don't want to have to pick up the phone. Like that should be a clue to, like, I don't want to talk to this person. And then when I do, I feel it's forced. I'm forcing myself to like, have a conversation, but I don't really care. I would rather be somewhere else, um, that those are all indicators that this is not somebody that we're vibing with. And sometimes those relationships can be helped, but it has to be both parties trying to work on it. If one party is just trying to make things more agreeable and better, and the other one just wants to be the same person they always are, then again, it's not going to work. And that person who's trying to make an effort is still going to feel really bad, and perhaps even worse, after speaking to this person. So it was, I don't know, let's see, when did he become my godfather? When I was like 13, maybe. Yeah, I was like 13 or 14. And it wasn't until I was about 24 or 25. I remember I was talking to him on the phone, and it was just the things he was saying. I was just like, I was literally shaking my head while I was on my cell phone. And I was so tired of talking to this person. And I know he's family, and I know he's my uncle. I know he's my godfather. I was like, but people, I would not let my best friend talk to me this way. I would not let anybody talk to me this way. Why am I letting this person, just because they're blood, talk to me this way? So it was like the first time I really talked back to a family member. I was like, I don't like to answer these questions. And he was like, but I'm your godfather. And I said, I know. It was really hard. I will say that really standing, at least me personally, really standing my ground and making boundaries and saying what I will and will not accept was really hard to say to my uncle, because he's family, he's blood. But I was like, I don't want to have these conversations with you. And I was like, so if this is all you want to call to talk to me about, I said, I don't want to talk to you. He says, well, and he kept saying all the reasons why he's entitled to get this information from me. And then that's the thing. I'm like, no, you are entitled to nothing. So I was like, no, I don't want to do that. He says, well, then I'll never call you again. And that felt bad too. Then I felt like I was being a bad person because he's like, well, then you're never going to hear from me again. And I was like, and that's just another tactic to get somebody to continue in this very toxic relationship. And unfortunately, it's amongst our blood family members sometimes. And so that's when I said, okay. And I felt bad, but at the same time, I felt so relieved. Like when I got off the phone, it was kind of like a, now I don't have to worry about getting those phone calls anymore. I don't have to worry about talking. And then that speaks wonders, as like, it speaks a lot. If your body and your mental and your emotional are like, ah, I don't have to talk to this person anymore. It's like such a relief. And sure, there was a part of me that was like, oh, but he's your uncle. And then you kind of push him away. And well, now I tell you, now that I'm 44, I do not mourn the loss of talking to my uncle. Like I think best decision I ever made. Maybe I should have done it earlier, but I'm like, I feel better mentally, emotionally. And I had to do that with one other person as well. And that person was my mother, and, even closer in blood relation. And that was really hard. Especially when you have a mom saying, oh, but I gave life to you. I birthed you, and all this stuff. And it's like, but the same thing, just because somebody is our blood family members doesn't mean that they get to either siphon our energy, use us, abuse us in whatever form that may be. So if there's something that's just not right, I would say the best thing is listen to your body, listen to your emotions, listen to what your head's telling you to, because if you're asking that question, that means you already have the answer, but you're waiting for confirmation for that answer. And so once you do make your decision, which you have free will choice, you can make whatever decision you want. But if you choose, that I just, either we both work on this and we can improve this relationship. But if it seems like I'm going to be the only one doing the work, that's just going to make me feel worse. Now I need to make a decision. What am I going to do? And sure, you might feel bad because it's your family and you're like, oh, I feel like a bad person because I'm cutting off this family member. But what if this person wasn't family? What if this person was just a Joe Schmo on the street? Like, would you cut this person off? If you would, then, you know, um, let's see what you're saying here. I Speak says, I wanted to add, it's not just someone is mean, but more so someone that has caused massive trauma. Yeah, that's what I said. Anybody who has crossed a boundary. So sometimes it's just the things that they say. Sometimes it's crossing my physical boundaries, my mental boundaries, my emotional boundaries, my energetic boundaries, but they're crossing a boundary and they're not respecting it. If it's one thing, if you've never let them know where your boundary is, but if you started putting your boundary down, and maybe that's something that you haven't tried or you have tried, and you're like, I put my boundary down, they still didn't respect it. Well, now you have to make a decision. Who's more important, their happiness or your well-being? Because if we're constantly giving our power away to somebody else's happiness, that doesn't actually help that person. It's their joy with while destroying myself. That's not a symbiotic relationship. And it's also saying that I'm not as important as that person. That person is more important than me. And that's not something I get down with. I feel like we're all very important. It's not to say that person is important, but that person isn't more important than you. You are equally as important as that person. I Speak says, empath problems, always fixing it. Hey, I get you. I get you. I totally hear you. Says, it's hard because at times I feel like a bad person or guilty, but oh well. I just hope spirit supports me. And go you, so true. Yes. I mean, whenever you choose empowerment, you're not just helping yourself, but you're showing everybody else, including the person that you are either setting a boundary with or cutting off or whatever, you're showing them too. That's not okay. So that maybe next time, maybe they don't do it to somebody else. You're teaching them, and you're teaching everybody who's watching, even the people you don't think is watching, they're watching. And it shows everybody, it shows you yourself, self-respect. I'm worth it. I respect myself. So other people are not allowed to disrespect me. And sure, like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You might feel bad. I did feel bad for a long time by not speaking to my mother or not speaking to my uncle/godfather. I felt pretty bad, but at the same time, I felt so relieved that weight of just, it was gone. And so eventually, as I learned to understand my own self-worth, self-respect more, I was like, okay, it's like, I'm teaching them something by doing this too. I'm not just teaching myself. It's everybody. It says, I'm no contact with my mom and dad for years now. Thank you. You are very welcome. So like I said, you know the answer, you know what you want to do. And yeah, maybe you won't feel good about your decision, but I will say that your body will thank you. Your physical, mental, emotional, and energetic health will thank you. And you know what? Spirit, the creator, is going to back whatever choice you make whenever you choose love, because really it is an act of love. And whenever you're showing somebody else a boundary, you're teaching somebody something. I mean, the creator's got to back that, right? I mean, spirit's got to back that. And Siren says, is it okay if we do a video chat so I can show you the memory cards? Maybe not now, but perhaps maybe later this week, we could. Or you could take a picture. Like sometimes people just send me pictures through DM on Instagram, like our friend Shadowlands, whenever she's showing me like her brand new roller skates or like some of the stuff that she's making, her mertail and stuff like that, she'll send me some pictures. So you can do that as well if you'd like. I Speak says, that's so empowering and so eye-opening. It's also teaching them. Yes. So, and that took me a long time to learn too, because I always feel like when it's something that's just between me and another person, I used to feel like whenever I made a decision that seemed to anger them, or, I felt like I'm being so selfish because now I see that person is upset. And it took me a long time for me to realize, well, but it seems like whenever they're joyful, it's usually at my expense. Why is it okay that I get upset, but it's not okay that they're upset? And, being a teacher for so many years, kids cannot learn without consequences. There needs to be consequences for their actions. And so let's say a student always backtalked me in class right in front of all the other kids. It was like, Miss Egyptian, what if they backtalked me and I allowed it because, well, I don't want to hurt the kids' feelings. I don't want to hurt the students' feelings. I'm teaching those other kids in that moment, it's okay for yourself to be disrespected. It's okay to let other people disrespect you, no matter their age or who they are. It's okay for them to disrespect you. So in my mind, I think it's just between me and the student. Like, it's okay that you speak to me that way because I don't want to hurt your feelings. But no, the moment I put my foot down and say, hey, you don't talk to me that way. If you're going to talk to me that way, you are going to go to the principal's office. No, we don't talk that way in this classroom. Now the other kids are like, whoa, okay. People aren't allowed to talk to us that way. We can have boundaries too. We can have self-respect too. And the teacher's not being mean. She just doesn't want to be spoken to that way. So now I can learn something. All those kids learn something. That kid learns something of like, oh, so there's a certain way I can talk to people and a certain other way I cannot talk to people. And that definitely wasn't the way I can talk to people because I got a very negative reaction from it. Instead of I can continue to push the boundaries, and the teacher isn't doing anything. So I know that's a classroom example, but I think that it holds true with adults too. People keep pushing, they keep saying how much they can take until you're like, nope, nope, cannot do that. And then they learn, Let's see. Oh yeah, Siren says that's good, or sounds good. Yes, yes. And I Speak says boundaries, boundaries. Something I have to reteach myself. Oh, I mean, it seems like it's a lifelong process for a lot of us. You know, sometimes, well, it isn't until our boundaries are pushed do we realize that we need to set a boundary. So it's not like I'm mentally like, oh, I need to have boundaries and do, 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 do. It's, I mean, they teach us too. It's not just us teaching them. So it's like when the person comes around, and it's not that everybody's trying to be malicious, but sometimes, you know, somebody will do something and it crosses a boundary and we didn't even know that, like, oh, wow, shoot, I probably should set a boundary there. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So I have to set a boundary there. And then now that person knows, okay, well, you know, I will not cross that boundary. And if they do, then there's got to be a consequence for that, you know, and they learn and you learn and everybody learns. It's a win-win. It may not feel like that at times, but it's definitely a win-win in the long run. So thank you so much, I Speak, for allowing me to answer that question, or at least help guide you in the direction. So if there's anybody else who would like to do super chat or super sticker, I would be more than happy. But thank you so much, Delisha, and thank you so much, I Speak My Truth, for allowing me to help out. Okay, let me put on my little shoesies here. I quickly want to take you guys on the side of the house and read you a little something. Am I going to need my sweater? I'm not going to be out there that long. Okay. I want to read a little something about dandelion. I've really been feeling dandelion, and not just because they're in season right now, but I feel like they have a medicine for us this week. So come with me before we finish up with a meditation. Gotta go on the side of the house because that's where the majority of the dandelions are growing. Okay. Out we go. Oh, it's not that bad out here. Oh, who ate my dandelions? Well, there were more dandelions. Oh, you know what? It's probably the bunnies. The bunnies have been coming through here. But we at least have a couple of dandelions. This will do. Okay. Observe the dandelion. Okay. Oh, there's one back there too. Okay. So you got a little dandelion back there. A little guy. Yes, I found out that the bunnies do like their dandelions. Okay, let me read you a little something about dandelion, then we'll figure out what that means for us this week. So it says, known principally as a weed, dandelion has an astonishing range of health benefits. In Western folk medicine, the leaves, which can be eaten in salads, have long been used as a diuretic. They were recommended in the works of Arab physicians in the 11th century and in an herbal written by the physicians of Midfi in Wales in the 13th century. The root, which has a shorter history of medicinal use, is good for the liver. It says dandelions grow wild in most parts of the world and is cultivated in Germany and France. It is propagated from seed in spring. The young leaves are picked in spring for tonic salads and later as a medicine. The root of 2-year-old plants is unearthed in the fall. So, I mean, I could probably pick this and it'll probably get eaten later by a rabbit. But there we go. There's our leaves. And it's interesting how there's so many plants that are just deemed weeds because they're not pretty or they don't sell them in stores. And there's a medicine, like they wouldn't be growing here if if they didn't help in some way. Like the earth, Gaia doesn't make mistakes, creator doesn't make mistakes. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to put this plant that has absolutely no value like on this planet. Like everything has value, and if it's growing in your area, that means it has the medicine for that area. And I know not every area has dandelions, but perhaps a dandelion has a particular medicine for that area that's not needed in other areas. But they're not a weed. I'm like, they're not weeds. I mean, quite obviously, there were so many dandelions. This whole area was just yellow with dandelions. But we have these brand new baby bunnies that are about 4-6 weeks old that have been hopping all over, and including the other cottontails. And this is food for those animals and many other animals, the deer around here. And it's really good for the soil as well, but it's good for people too, because we're also a part of the earth. But let's see, the leaves, like this leaf here, the leaves have cormins, carotenoids, and minerals, especially potassium. The roots, which I'm not going to pull this up by the root, but the roots have taraxosides, phenolic acids, and potassium and calcium minerals. They're considered a bitter, which means that they're good for the liver. They're a diuretic, they're antiviral, they're antibacterial. Also, using them in salads, or, I saw somebody online who deep fried the heads of the dandelions. I was like, okay. Don't know if that keeps its health benefits, but, you do you, boo. But it's really good at helping you to detox from heavy metals. And man, we have so many heavy metals, not just in our foods, as they're finding mercury and lead and things that shouldn't have. Literally, we shouldn't be eating mercury, lead, or aluminum, all of that, but also it's coming from the sky. So if you're wanting to detox from a lot of it, having some food or smoothie or something that has dandelion in it, pretty good. And I'll show you, I have powdered dandelion root, and that's what I use for my teas. Okay, so I wanted to show you, but let's go back inside. Let's see if we can find anybody else around here. Oh, there's a little guy. He's right in our amongst the fleabane. So there we go. So down here, it's a little dandelion, and then all these are fleabanes. Again, these are not weeds, but these are really good for the soil. So they help to replenish soil that has lost much of its nutrients. So this is putting nutrients back into our soil. So this is really good. You want these guys around, because if you're wanting to grow stuff around here, you're going to need these dudes. Nobody's a weed. Okay, let's head back in. Ooh, and the sun is coming out. It's lovely, you guys. Beautiful. Beauty miss. Okay, let's head in. I would do our chat out here. It's just a little too windy. Perhaps when our windy season dies down. Okay. Oops. Okay. So I have dandelion root and dandelion leaf. And they're pretty easy to dry too. Okay. Whew. So, there we go. So I have dandelion root in powdered form. And I'll explain the root again in just a little bit, but really good for teas, or mixing into smoothies if you wanted. If you wanted things more for like salads or part of a seasoning, or even part of a meat rub that you want to do, you can use the leaf, which I have it in this little baggie here, and the flower heads. You could literally, as long as like no animal has peed on them, maybe you want to wash them first. You could just like go ahead and eat the flower heads literally right out of the earth. You could do that too. Just like while you're walking around, maybe while I'm feeding the birds, just eat a little flower head. It's really good for you. Um, let's see what else I had to say here. Okay, so here's about the leaves and the roots. So the leaves, research published in the journal Planta Medica in 1974 confirmed that dandelion leaves are a powerful diuretic, though their exact mode of action is not understood. Many other small-scale studies have confirmed this diuretic, or more accurately, aquaretic effect of dandelion leaf. Aquaretic refers to the fact that many herbal diuretics stimulate just the elimination of water and potassium. As dandelion leaf has very high levels of potassium, it is thought that no net loss of this mineral occurs on taking the leaf. Okay, so if you're going to have the root, ongoing research suggests that dandelion root has significant anti-cancer activity, and laboratory studies extracts increase tumor necrosis factor and stimulate apoptosis, program cell death. Interesting. So an impact on the anti-cancer activity. That's really good. Good stuff. Okay, traditional. As a diuretic, dandelion leaf is good for treating high blood pressure, reducing the volume of fluid in the body. It's a detoxifying remedy. Dandelion root is a key detoxifying herb that stimulates the liver and gallbladder's capacity to clear waste products from the body. This action makes it valuable in many health conditions that involve chronic toxicity, whether this toxicity is linked to inflammation, infection, or dietary or environmental factors. Like I said, helping to clear those heavy metals. The root is typically taken to treat constipation, skin problems such as eczema and arthritic conditions, where improved clearance of waste product can reduce local inflammation. Dandelion root is a good prebiotic supporting the health of the gut flora. It has traditionally been used in the early stages of type 2 diabetes, stimulating insulin release from the pancreas and supporting stable blood sugar levels. So lots of different ways you could take this. You could take them as tablets, as a tonic salad, as a tincture, decoction, infusion, as a juice. For me, I find dandelion to be a little bit bitter, so I like to mix it in with other herbs. And if you're going to have it in a smoothie, I want lots of fruit, especially like strawberries or something that has a very like strong flavor to it, because it takes out some of the bitter of dandelion. But then I also know that I'm getting like lots of good stuff, from that smoothie, not just the fruit that I have in there. So what this medicine could mean for us this week is to take a look at what we need to detox from, like what we had too much of. Like some things can be good in moderation, but in excess, a little too much, So like dark chocolate. They say dark chocolate, cacao, really good for the heart, really good for the circulatory system, actually has a lot of iron in it, actually more iron than red meat. Good stuff. But if you're having a dark chocolate every minute of every day, and dark chocolate, unless it's 100% dark, like it's literally raw cacao, there's some sugar in there. Too much of a good thing, may turn into not so good of a thing. So yeah, this week, what have we had too much of lately? Maybe too much of a certain mindset. Maybe it's too much of a certain food. Maybe it's too much of a certain activity. But what have we had an overindulgence of that may have been healthy and perfectly fine in small doses, but in this overindulgence, we may have had a counter effect. So it might be, going out with friends, cool, once in a while, but overindulging and going out with friends in lieu of taking care of other things or using it as an avoidance tactic, in other areas of our life. Well, now it's turned into not such a good thing. So what are some things Like I said, that we can look in where have we been overindulging emotionally, energetically, physically, mentally. It could be beliefs, it could be situations, overindulging in people, overindulging in a food. Um, and instead of, coming down on ourselves, it's all about just having perspective. Now I know that I'm overindulging in this. Okay, cool. What am I going to do about it? How can I detox a little bit? How can I get this more into some sort of a balanced, belief system, or a balanced lifestyle, or a balanced eating pattern? And we're only humans, so we can't really get down on ourselves and be like, man, I shouldn't have done that. It's like, okay, well, I did it. So now what am I going to do about it? Well, let's take some action. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed the chat. I have enjoyed the chat with you guys. Thank you for allowing me to share these stories and share Riley's spooky story as well. And like I said, if you guys want me to share some of your stories, maybe in future live chats, or maybe I could do videos, maybe where I just like do story time videos. I would love to do those. You can email me your stories. You can send them over on Instagram at the Savage Wild AZ. Or if you're a patron, my patrons, they know that they can message me and just send me your story. I'd be happy to read those. I think they'd be amazing. I'd love to retell your stories. And thank you for those who allowed me to help out with the Q&A section, and just make some tea, hang out with you guys, talk a little bit about dandelion, which is fantastic for detox. And you know what? I even forgot to say, in Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs, something our ancestors used to use dandelion for. It was kind of interesting. Let's see. Here we go. I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally see myself as like a little kid going, oh my gosh. Okay, so it says, back in the day, dandelion was used to find out how long you will live. Blow the seeds off the head of a dandelion. You will live as many years as there are seeds left on the head. And I was like, well, what happens when somebody blows out all the seeds off the dandelion? Are you like, oh my gosh, today I die? I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then it says, to tell the time, blow 3 times at the seed head. The number left is the hour. The root, when dried, roasted, and ground like coffee, is used to make tea. Ooh, that is something I forgot to say. There are people who are trying to get off of coffee, like wean themselves off. And so they've actually been using dandelion root, like powdered, like I have, and a couple of other herbs in place of coffee, like still getting that kind of, without caffeine, but that kind of energy boost minus the caffeine, and just kind of detoxing effect, just helping to move all those years of coffee out of the system. So yeah, there are a lot of people that have kind of like switched over from coffee to dandelion. It says this infusion will, you could also use it to promote psychic ability. It says you can place it beside the bed to call spirits, although I think after the stories we're telling, maybe that's the opposite of what we want to be doing. Maybe we want to call the spirits to us at night. It says to send a message to a loved one, blow at the seed head in his or her direction and visualize your message. Dandelion buried in the northwest corner of the house brings favorable winds. Well, I remember when I was just a wee, my friends and I, we'd make wishes with our dandelions. We'd be like, oh my gosh, I hope that what was this? There was a kid that I used to like when I was in 6th grade. I thought he was like so cute and so smart. I was like, oh, please let Andres Caro be my boyfriend. And then I'd blow on the seed head, and we'd blow the seeds everywhere, hoping that our wishes would be, carried in the wind. And then I remember my mom would take the yellow dandelion and she'd put it under your chin. And she said that if your chin turned yellow, that means you like butter. I have no idea what that even means or where that even came from, but I always remember that she would put it under my chin. I know you like butter. And so my friends and I would do it. Like, what does that even mean? Of course we like butter. But we'd put it under our chin. I like butter. It turned yellow. But yeah, so many fun things with dandelion. So yeah, let me know. You guys can email me, DM me again with your spooky stories, your um, unsolved mystery stories, or ways in which you use dandelion this week to just kind of help detox, bring a little more balance back into all the areas of our lives. So, all right, you guys, let's go ahead and get into meditation. I'm going to allow dandelion to take over. So, I'm going to move this out of the way. Uh, do, do, do. And that way you guys have dandelion to look at. You don't have to look at me. Maybe I'll put my tea up here too. Good stuff. All right. I'm going to bring you guys down, but not in that way. I don't want to be a downer. I'm just bringing the tripod down so that you are at a level that you can see dandelion more better. Okay. There we go. And dandelion is right here in the root form, and here are powdered root form, and then we have dandelion leaf here. Okay. All right. So I'm really feeling the flute as we were talking about blowing the seed heads off a dandelion, really feeling that air energy. So go ahead and get into a nice comfortable space, a place you will be undisturbed for the next several minutes. You could be lying in your bed, sitting in a chair, perhaps seated on the floor, or maybe you are outdoors laying in a bed of dandelion. If your trend turns yellow, perhaps you like butter. And as you begin to situate yourself, go ahead and bring your awareness to the breath, feeling that rise and fall of the chest. And if you notice several thoughts popping into your mind, just give them a gentle nod and allow them to pass right on through. You have lots of time to ponder those thoughts later, but right now we are in the present. Right now we are feeling into this space and how good it feels to just relax and breathe. How good it feels to just focus on the breath, the rise and fall of our chest. And if you hear the noises of the outside world, each of those noises only aids you in sinking more deeply into this relaxed state. Every thought that passes through continues to pass through. Again, aids you in this further deepening of relaxation. Feeling the body just melt back into the earth. Every breath having you sink further and further back into the soil. Every exhale is like watching the seed heads of a dandelion drift off into the wind. And as we continue to sink further into this relaxed state, we almost feel like dandelion itself, feeling our roots take hold in the earth that supports us, nourishes us, gives us our life. And our yellow flower head that we point towards the sun, we feel the wind, all of it helping us to sink more deeply into relaxation yet feeling protected, feeling strong, feeling stable. We know our worth. We know our medicine. Allow the other dandelions that surround you to speak to you, to show you where we need to bring more balance into our life. Where have we overindulged? And perhaps looking into why. Why had we overindulged? The more we know, the more we are empowered, and the easier it is for us to take action with that clarity. So allow Dandelion to speak to you now. Go ahead and bring your awareness back into the body. feeling into your fingers and toes, feeling back into the lungs, uprooting yourself up from the soil, thanking Dandelion for its medicine and its guidance, thanking the Creator for offering us all these wonderful aids and allies that surround us on this beautiful spinning marble. And when you're ready, go ahead and take a nice deep inhale and have yourself a nice big stretch. Yay! Thank you guys so much for joining me today, this Sunday. I hope you had a beautiful, wonderful May 1st. For those who celebrate Beltane, I hope you had a wonderful Beltane. And if you just celebrate May Day, and anybody who might be celebrating Cinco de Mayo coming up, I hope that you have a wonderful Cinco de Mayo and all the wonderful things that are coming up in May. I know that we have Mother's Day coming up in all the forms that Mother appears to us. And yeah, I know there's a lot of birthdays this month too, so I hope you guys have a happy birthday. And don't forget, let me know when your guys' birthdays are, because I love singing happy birthday for people. So, and Siren says, blessed be everyone. Many blessings to you. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out, and I will catch you spiritual homies later. Stay wild, my friends. Peace out. Bye.